Greetings to all of you in the Matrix. I greet you in the name of peace, love, and understanding or understanding. This is going to be a awesome presentation dealing with man's higher consciousness when it comes to the importance of water. Okay, right now, water is dead. The water that we're drinking is dead. And anything that is dead, it doesn't move. It's still. So today, it is my goal to basically resurrect water from the death through reasoning, because we're drinking the wrong water. We're putting the wrong water within our finely tuned machine, and we are suffering many things due to our ignorance and also from the programming of mainstream corporations wanting to make a profit off of selling you dead water. And they use misinformation to keep us in the dark. But today, hopefully, the light will shine within you, and you shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. I'm going to begin by quoting this verse from Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18. And it says, "Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord." Or shall I say, saith the elemental unseen force. "And though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. And though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool." And basically the theme is for us to reason. Let's hear the argument against drinking clean, pure, moving water versus the argument of continuing to drink still dead water. And we all know that it's hard to get blood out of your clothes. So when the blood gets all mucky in your arteries, you need the same pure cleaning agent, scrubbing agent, that which will clean up the junk flowing through it in order to get that blood to move again. Because right now, folks, our blood is dying because of the water that we're putting in, clogging up the stream, polluting the stream with sediment that don't belong in it. So I hope that you have an ear that can hear, and eyes that can see, and a heart that would soon understand the truth. Because I need for you and myself to become free in this commercialization of our lives from birth to death. From birth to death. Distilled water. Distilled water. This is a label, a product of Deer Park, and it's distilled water. And if you look at the label in red right here, it says for use in small appliances. For use in small appliances. I wonder why. We're gonna answer that. Don't get it twisted. We're gonna answer it, folks. And then in the small fine print, you'll read that this distilled water is purified by steam distillation, carbon filtration, and microfiltration. But they say it should only be used in small appliances. Okay? So we're going to get the definition of distilled and see what does it mean. And right here,
distilled, distilled.
As an adjective, it says, number one, of a liquid having been purified by undergoing heating and condensation. Distilled water, in quotes. Number two, of spirits, which is alcohol or an essence produced by distilling. And then they have the distilled whiskey is filtered through 3 meters of charcoal. And then number three, having been shortened so that only the essential meaning of the most important aspects remain. Now I'm going to revise this statement in referring to distilled water is when we were talking about distilled water, basically we're saying it has been purified by undergoing heating and then condensed back into condensation for the purpose of having the most important aspects of the water remain. I repeat, distilled water is basically water that has been purified by undergoing heating and condensation produced by distilling so that only the essential, most important aspects of the water remain. Okay? And here we have a website by the name of Nikola. But first, let me give you some more of this distilled water. Okay, so we have here 8 uses of distilled water. Okay, you may have heard about distilled water and its uses for medical equipment, CPAP machines, and automobiles. But you may be asking, what exactly is distilled water? What makes it different than other types of water out there? Folks, there are other types of water. Yes, there are other types of water. And you need to know what type of water is best suitable for optimal function of your machine. I know sometimes we don't think of our body as a machine, but it is the most complicated, complex machine ever to be created without man's hands. And what is distilled water? Well, we just read what the word distilled is. So distilled water goes through a purification process called distillation, which replicates the Earth's natural hydrological cycle. The distillation process boils away impurities while capturing only H2O, resulting in water that is in its purest form. H2O, folks, notice there's no other ingredients in that. So when you're looking for all these, when you see on the water shelves in your grocery stores and they say they've added this and they've added that, they just contaminated the water you're going to put into your body. And we all know what H2O is. H2O is the gases hydrogen and oxygen. That's what water is, folks. Water should not have any other element in it except for the element, or which is the gases, the gas, hydrogen and oxygen in a condensed fluid form. That's what we're drinking when we drink water. We're drinking gases in fluid form. And that's the same thing our blood is. Our blood is a constituent of all the gases that are in the atmosphere, including bad gases, folks, including pollution in condensed form, or shall I say in condensed fluid. And what is distilled water used for? This is what we're going to hear what they say distilled water is used for. But there are many types of water available, such as spring water, purified water, distilled water, and tap water, to name a few. However, distilled water, because of its lack of impurities, is most useful in a number of different industries where purity is a factor. Shouldn't purity be a factor in our body? I mean, you hear about all these diets where cleansing brings back health. Well, if water is one of the basic things we putting in it, why would we put any other water in our body other than the most purest that lacks the impurities of clogging up the river of life that flows through our veins, which is the blood? Why would we put anything else differently other than the purest water into our body? Remember, let us come now together and reason. This is where we are reasoning this, folks. In the medical industry is one place, okay? So in the medical industry, they use a lot of distilled water, also called sterile water, and is preferred in the medical field due to its purity. I'm not going to go through all of those things. This is from thewaterguys.com. So www.waterguys.com. All right, it's a good article letting you know some of the things they use distilled water for. I'm using this, though, to appeal to your reasoning. Number 2, using for laboratory experiments. Okay? In order to achieve an accurate result in experiments, distilled water is often used as it does not contain any minerals or contaminants that may affect the experiment's outcome. Okay? Think about that for your body as well. Number 3, they recommend it in CPAP machines. Sleep apnea is a serious disorder, and a continuous positive airway pressure machine applies air pressure to keep the airways continuously open. It is recommended that only distilled water be used in CPAP machines to keep them free from any type of bacteria and mineral buildup. Mineral buildup is going to be key. Remember that. Mineral buildup is going to be key. And if you got a teapot or a coffee pot and you've been using tap water or spring water, you'll see the little white film that is left behind after so many uses without washing it. Just putting the clean water in there, you'll see the mineral buildup. Well, folks, that's what's building up in our machine. And that's what's causing our body to become like a rock and giving us hardened arteries, hardened tissues, and hardened organs. Okay. Number 4, it improves functioning of humidifiers. So humidifiers is another place you would want to use distilled water. Using distilled water in humidifiers prevents mineral buildup, allowing the humidifier to work better and last longer. Apply that to your body. Apply that to your body. Drinking distilled water prevents mineral buildup, allowing your body to work better and last longer. Number 5, use in neti pot for nasal irrigation. Nasal irrigation things. Why? Okay, to prevent bacteria right here. Uses distilled water to prevent the growth of bacteria. Folks, drinking distilled water will prevent the growth of bacteria in your body. I repeat, drinking distilled water will prevent the growth of bacteria in your body. The same way it prevents the growth of bacteria in CPAP machines and now in nasal irrigation equipment. Number 6, canning fruits and vegetables. Using distilled water in canning of fruits and vegetables helps to maintain the color and taste and even reduces spoilage. Interesting. Distilled water can also prevent cloudiness that normally occurs when using other types of water. What do you think that cloudiness is? That same cloudiness is taking place in your blood if you're drinking any other water other than distilled. Okay. Number 7, automobiles, inside and out. The same minerals in purified and spring water, which are beneficial to our bodies, can corrode internal engine parts. Well, that just contradicts the statement of using spring water. If it's going to corrode the internal parts of engines, why would you drink this water? What do you think is corroding the internal parts of the engines? The same minerals in the purified and spring water. And then they're going to say it's beneficial to our bodies. Reason, folks. Reason. Come now, let us reason together. Does it make sense that you don't want to use it in the most engine parts, but you're going to use it in your engine? No, I don't think so. And then when you using your mind and you are rightly dividing, you understand that you should not be using purified or spring water in your body. Why? Because it's going to corrode and the mineral buildup is going to harden you like a statue over time. Over time, the mineral in purified and spring waters will cause you to become a statue, just like Lot's wife in the Bible. Okay? So it says the engine of a car uses a lot of heat when the car is running, and distilled water is safe to use in cooling down the engines and cleaning since it is free of compounds. See that? This is what will happen when you use distilled water in your body. It's going to be a better cooling medium so that you do not have heat exhaustion, or shall I say a heat stroke. And it's also going to clean your body since it is free of the compounds you find in all the other waters. Okay? And it says here, distilled water is also commonly used to top off lead acid batteries often found in cars and trucks. Lead batteries rely on water to keep cars and trucks running, or they will deteriorate. And I repeat, you are a walking battery. You have a charge, both positive and negative. And if you use waters that clog up, corrode, guess what happens when a battery is full of acid around its two poles? That battery is dead and the car is not going to start. Well, folks, drinking distilled water can also prevent an acidic environment that would weaken that electrical connection or electric flow in your body. And it will keep the deterioration down. And some car owners also use distilled water to wash their cars. Why? Because using hard water, they didn't mention that one up there in the types of water, but yes, hard water on some parts of a car may ruin the exterior or even lead to lime scale stains. What do you think it's doing to the inside of your body? If it'll do it to your car, it'll leave that same lime scale in you. Then you'll start saying, my joints are aching, my joints are stiff. I wonder why. And number 8, in the cosmetic industry. Distilled water in the cosmetic industry is crucial due to its high purity levels. High purity levels. And the use of distilled water in cosmetics ensures the products are producing their desired outcomes and objectives. But cosmetics, right here, it says cosmetics company use distilled water in their products to ensure that there are not any unwanted contaminants within them. Cosmetics should be free of all bacteria and chemicals to ensure the safety of the customer. Wow. Let that reason within your mind for a second. So drinking distilled water. Distillation boils away the impurities, making distilled water a very clean water to drink. In fact, so clean that distilled water may taste flat due to the minerals being stripped from the water. Water profiles taste different due to the minerals that exist in or have been added to the water for taste. If you enjoy the taste of pure H2O, then distilled water might be for you. Folks, I hope you all got that. I hope you all got that. And right now, I am going to an article. This is an article on a website called www.mercola.com. Mercola, Mercola. And this is the Mercola website by a guy by the name of Dr. Mercola. And let's hear Dr. Mercola. And remember, folks, I said I am going to resurrect water from the death through reasoning. Because dead water, still water, would be also known as murky water, muddy waters, contaminated waters, pretty much. And if you won't drink murky, muddy, contaminated waters, then I ask you, why are you drinking any other type of water other than the purest water for your machine? Distill, remaining, removing all the impurities out of the still water, thus allowing the water to become a moving water, a water that flows. That's what distill. It is distilling. Still waters would be water that don't move because of the impurities that is in it. And then distill would be removing those impurities. Okay? But right here, Dr. Mercola has an article. I would imagine it was written by him. And he says, early death comes from drinking distilled water. I wonder why. Dr. Mercola will give the impression that early death comes from drinking distilled water. Well, let's read. During nearly 19 years of clinical practice, I have had the opportunity to observe the health effects of drinking different types of water. Most of you would agree that drinking unfiltered tap water could be hazardous to your health because of things like parasites, chlorine, fluoride, and dioxins. Yes, we all agree with that, right? Many health fanatics, however, are often surprised to hear me say that drinking distilled water on a regular daily basis is potentially dangerous. Paola Arola wrote about the dangers of distilled water in the 1970s when it first became a fad with the health food crowd. Distillation is the process in which water is boiled. Well, we know that. All right. And do we need to really get back into what is distilled water? But the basis is you're removing all the impurities from the water. And studies validate the benefits of drinking distilled water when one is seeking to cleanse or detoxify the system for short periods of time. Now, think about that. It says when one wants to cleanse and detoxify the system for a short period of time, a few weeks at a time. Folks, our body should remain at a constant pure environment. Our body should remain consistently with a purity, at a purity, uncontaminated. But anyway, it says fasting using distilled water can be dangerous. Now, I disagree. There are thousands of people who have fasted simply drinking distilled water, and their health improved. But it says fasting using distilled water can be dangerous because of the rapid loss of electrolytes, which is sodium, potassium, and chloride. And that's what they love putting in your water. And those are the very things that turn your ass into a pillar of salt. Remember Lot's wife. And trace minerals like magnesium, deficiencies of which can cause heartbeat irregularities and high blood pressure. Cooking foods in distilled water pulls the minerals out of them and lowers their nutrient value. Let me tell you something, folks. The truth of the matter is, Man's Higher Consciousness, a book by Hilton Hotima, lets you know emphatically that we do not get minerals from food, but our body only uses the gas of the fruit or vegetable. And when we cook the vegetable, we lose the gas. We lose that very vital gas that our body seeks to use. So cooking foods, period, first of all, you're destroying the food if you're cooking it. But it says cooking foods in distilled water pulls the minerals. Yeah, it's going to pull those minerals that your body don't need anyway, because again, a lot of earthy minerals is what's causing the sclerosis of the soft tissues in our body. And there is no nutrient value to those earthly minerals. Okay? If there was a nutritious value to the earthly minerals that is in the foods that we eat, then our bodies would not begin over time to harden, and then our organs begin to fail, and our hearts begin to harden, and our organs begin to harden. Basically, the sclerosis of the tissues of our arteries and organs in soft tissues. So these are claims of this article, and I just say, reason within yourself. Reason within yourself. Distilled water is an active absorber, and when it comes in contact with air, it absorbs carbon dioxide, making it acidic. Yes, distilled water is acidic, but guess what, folks? Our body is a natural alkalizer. Folks, the people in ancient times of the Bible that were living 800, 900, 700, 600 years old, they weren't worried about drinking alkaline water and all that, because they weren't drinking the water as we are today. They weren't eating as we are today. They weren't doing a lot of that because they had a higher conscience. They were breatharians. They were living from breathing in the cosmic rays, or the prana, or the etheric life, which is in the atmosphere. And they didn't worry about what type of water to drink. But since we drink a lot of water today, because corporations got to sell their water, they got to move their water, folks. They have to move their water. Why? Because if you was to begin to distill your own water, they would lose money. So of course we're going to push you not drinking the most purest water. Remember, it says rainwater is nature's natural hydrologic system. And that's all distilled water is. So my question, I'm going to make a statement, or I ask the question. If distilled water is bad for you, and distilled being the purest water, then all water is bad for you. I repeat, if distilled water is bad for you, and distilled water is the purest water we can drink, then all water becomes bad. And the more distilled water a person drinks, it says, the higher the body's acidity becomes, which is false, because your body naturally alkalizes. Okay? Now we can interrupt that alkalizing process, folks. Yes, we can. We can interrupt our body's natural alkalizing process. And I think it's basically not that distilled water is causing the body to become more acidic. It's drinking distilled water with a very acidic diet. Drinking distilled water with a very acidic diet, especially for those of you who drink water without allowing your food to digest first. Because truthfully, the body naturally alkalizes the foods that are very acidic. Now, there's certain foods that, interrupts that alkalizing process, because it might irritate the mucous membranes, producing mucus. But our bodies are natural. Our body has a natural alkalizing process. So we don't have to worry about this misinformation coming from this article on the drmercola.com website. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, listen to this, the EPA is getting involved now. Distilled water, being essentially mineral-free, is very aggressive. Folks, we have to fight through this misinformation. Water should be nothing more than hydrogen gas, 2 electrons, and oxygen, 1 electron, or 1 atom, sorry, two atoms of hydrogen gas and 1 atom of oxygen. And that condenses to create this thing that we call water, which is gas in fluid form. Anything else added to H2O is a contamination, and thus you contaminate your organism, your body, your cell tower. Don't you know that the kingdom of God is within you? The life is within you. You don't see it, but it fights daily to keep you alive based on your abuse of it in ignorance. But the EPA says that distilled water, being essentially mineral free, is very aggressive in that it tends to dissolve substances in which it is in contact with. Let me tell you something about that statement right there. Your body has an infinite intelligence that surpasses the mind of man. The body came into existence without the help of the hands of man. And therefore, man cannot assist what only nature can create. So what they're telling you is, when you drink pure water, it dissolves substances. Right, folks? Don't you want to dissolve all of those hardened minerals that's been collected in your body from the food, the earthy vegetable, the earthy minerals that we get from our food and from our water? That's not a bad thing, folks. Those things are inorganic. Those things are inorganic and should be removed from the body. All right? But it says, notably, carbon dioxide from the air is rapidly absorbed, making the water acidic and even more aggressive. Many metals are dissolved by distilled water. Well, guess what? That's a good thing, because remember, the body only receives the gaseous elements. Remember, everything that we find on the periodic table, pretty much in the earth, is also in gas form in our atmosphere. And it is transmitted through the cosmic air or cosmic radiation, with the sun being a big synthesizer of these gases as we breathe them in. And yes, everything that the body needs, we breathe in, folks. You still a breatharian, whether you know it or not. This is why you can go weeks without eating through fasting, days without drinking, but you can only go 4 minutes without breathing, because you truly are a breatharian. This is the information that they hid in the ancient mystery schools. They condemned them, and they destroyed all the information or hid it, and they give you what the society, the dysfunctional society of ignorance that you're born into, that we all are born into. But I just ask you to think about some of the things that I'm bringing to you and some of the things that they're telling you about distilled water. Yes, distilled water does dissolve substances in our body, but the body will not give up that which the body needs. And I don't, you gotta get this, that drinking pure water will only do the body good. It's going to remove all those minerals, all those metals that will cause you to become a conduit, to be electrocuted or be struck by lightning. That's right, because you become a conductor of electricity, and lightning become more attracted to your body because of all of those metals that they say you need, and these solid forms that they put in your food and your water. But it is true that our body uses these metals, but only in gas form, folks. Only in a gaseous form. Continuing on with the article. The most toxic commercial beverages that people consume, i.e., cola beverages and other soft drinks, are made from distilled water. And these studies have consistently shown that heavy consumers of soft drinks, with or without sugar, spill huge amounts of calcium, magnesium, and other trace elements into the urine. Again, understanding this statement in its proper understanding, it is not to compensate for the distilled water. It's to compensate for all the other shit that's in those soft drinks. It's not doing this, drawing out calcium and magnesium and trace minerals because of distilled water. It's doing it because of all of the other impurities that they add to the soft drink. So let's keep it real. Rainwater, after it has failed for, I say, maybe a half hour, getting rid of all the impurities in the air, is the best water that we can put in our body. And yet they're telling you that it's bad for you. That is the reason why you gonna have calcium and magnesium and all the so-called trace minerals. Trace minerals. That's a coined term, but the truth of the matter is, you are a walking cell. You are a walking, living, breathing cell. You are composed of trillions of cells. Molecules do not eat. Atoms do not eat. Electrons do not eat. So the point is, as a walking cell tower, cells do not eat, because that's all we are. And you better believe that this is why sickness and disease reigns supreme in the human organism today. And they are making so much money off of it. They are making so much. Listen, the way this medical system is set up, folks, it benefits them only to keep you sick and burdened with disease. Think about that. Continuing reading. The more mineral loss, the greater the risk of osteoporosis. Folks, osteoporosis, everything that they're naming right here is because you're drinking the wrong kind of water from the get-go. See, they understand that if they keep you away from this distilled water, then they'll produce osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, hyperthyroidism, coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, and a long list of degenerative diseases generally associated with premature aging. It is the water that we are drinking that is premature aging us and causing all of these diseases. It's not distilled water that's causing it. It is the other waters that contain all the bullshit in it. And I ask you to please forgive me for my foul language, but I get so upset because this is how they are banking on you. They are banking in keeping you ignorant. They are getting rich and keeping us ignorant of this truth. It is the minerals being deposited throughout your body, the salts being deposited throughout your body that's causing the osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, hyperthyroidism, coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, and a long list of other degenerative diseases generally associated with premature aging. And I will prove it as we continue on. We're going to get into that man's higher consciousness book and show you that this was all the way back in the 1950s that they understood this. See, the medical industrial complex don't ever want you to know how to take care of your organism, because then they won't make the money that they make. And you best believe you mess with a man's money, you're going to be targeted. You're going to be targeted. So, continuing, a growing number of healthcare practitioners and scientists from around the world having been advocating the theory that aging and disease is the direct result of the accumulation of acid waste products in the body. Yes, acid does cause some disease, but the diseases that was mentioned up here is caused by you drinking the mineral water, the spring water, the purified water, and any other water other than distilled water. Remember what I said to you. Dead water is full of things that keep the water from moving. And if you put that water in your body, thinking that it's better for you because you believe the hype that free-flowing water, void of contaminants, is bad for you, then you're going to think that you're not going to know that the mucky water you're drinking, just because you can't see the muck, don't mean that the muck is still not going to perform what is performing in creating osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, sclerosis of the tissues, hypothyroidism, coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, and a long list of degenerative diseases generally associated with premature aging. In other words, your joints getting all stiff and hardened because of the mucky water you drinking, the earthy water you drinking. They won't put it in their machines, but they want you to put it in yours because they can't profit off of your death, off of the pharmaceuticals that they're going to prescribe to you, the surgeries they're going to perform on you if you have knowledge of how to take care of your temple. So, we got to reason this now. There is a great deal of scientific documentation that supports such a theory. A poor diet may be partially to blame for the waste accumulation. a poor diet may. Yes, a poor diet has something to do with it, right? But if you putting mucky water in your body, that's gonna compound the poor diet. That's gonna compound and speed up the ailments revealing themselves from your ignorance. So you got to understand that drinking pure water would actually help counteract some of the bad, poor diet choices we make. And here is a list. These other junk foods can cause the body to become more acidic. Meats, sugar, alcohol, fried foods, soft drinks, processed foods, white flour products, and dairy. Yes, those will cause the body to become acidic. But you know, some of these will actually even clog up the body. Clog up the body, such as fried foods, processed foods, white flour, and dairy. They all clog up. Dairy actually irritates the mucous membrane and causes our mucous membrane to start producing mucus, which has a clogging effect, mucking up the flow and covering the soft tissues that should be getting that pure water. Okay, white flour. Yeah, have you ever wet flour and let it dry? Okay. Well, if you having that fine flour pass through your body and it begins to settle as the blood begins to flow and deposit it in the soft tissues and joints and organs, yes, it's going to harden, folks. But if you ain't drink, because the water that we're drinking is really not performing the negative effect, that what they call a negative effect, which is actually a beneficial effect, as it says up here. Where was it? Where it says distilled water, being essentially mineral free, is very aggressive in that it tends to dissolve substances with which it is in contact with. So that's what we want going on, especially if our diet is bad. You don't want to compound a bad diet by drinking water that has all of these substances and minerals in it. That's going to compound the hardening effect, the clogging effect. So again, that's all the more reason why we want to drink water that is not dead, water that is flowing and free of impurities. Stress, whether mental or physical, can lead to acid deposits in the body. Listen, why are we talking about acid deposits? All right. Yes, mineral water has a lower alkalinity. But as I said before, folks, your body naturally alkalizes whatever you're putting into it, as long as you don't interrupt the alkalizing process. Let me put it to you this way. If you drink pure rainwater, you know, catch rainwater after it's done fell for a half hour to an hour, and it's still raining. You catch that rainwater and it's clear. It's not yellow. It don't look like, you know, the color of straw, but it's clear. And you drink that. They're telling you, folks, that water is not good for you. But I want you to know, folks, that water is pretty much what sustains all the life that you eat, whether it be plants or animals. So again, they're trying to get you to think that because distilled water is more acidic and less alkaline in nature, that it's going to create an acidic environment, and that's just not so. Because they're not telling you that your body is the natural alkaliner. That's what they're not telling you. So if you don't know that your body is a natural alkaliner, then you're going to be running out to the store, buying into this fad, of buying alkaline water, which really is dead water, folks, because they add stuff to the hydrogen gas and the oxygen gas. Y'all, to think that the creator don't know what he's doing, or the creator don't know what it's doing, the creation don't know what it's doing in making distilled water, and then we believe man over nature. You deserve to become like Lot's wife, turning into a pillar of salt, a statue. In other words, the hardening of your body. You deserve it because you ain't a thinking being. To think that the creator, in all its infinite wisdom, in its way of delivering water to nature and animals, and then you think that that water is bad for you because some man told you that, so he can sell you his water he putting in a bottle, and then you, unbeknownst, ignorantly following the program, putting spring water, mineral water, and purified waters and any other tap water into your body. And then years later, the effects begin to reveal itself. The achy joints, the arthritis, the hardening of the tissues, the hardening of the arteries from all the calcium and mineral deposits. You become a rock. In other words, as you turn yourself into a rock from putting bad water into you, you become like that stagnant distilled, or that stagnant still water, which is dead, meaning you can't move. As your body becomes hard, it becomes harder for you to move because your tissues are supposed to remain soft and pliable and flexible, but because you want to follow what man has told you and ignore nature's life-giving water because man told you it's bad for you and you don't use reason to consider, then you start turning yourself into a solid steel rock. Folks, the longer one drinks distilled water, it says, the more likely the development of mineral deficiencies and an acid state. It's a lie. As I said before, your body can't use the so-called minerals in solid form. And proof of that is when you eat, you have a bowel movement. What about the minerals did your body get if you cooked your food? Remember, the minerals that your body uses are the gaseous minerals. In other words, the fluid that has condensed, the gas that has condensed in fluid form. Hence, hydrogen, oxygen equals water. Yes, fruits have distilled water, or the life-giving gases condensed into fluid form. So they are using mind direction and misinformation, giving you a half-truth. And a half-truth is more dangerous because it's more misleading. So they're giving us half-truths here. They're not giving you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. They are giving you a half-truth. But if you think that you're supposed to get minerals from your pure water, man, I feel for you, because years down the road you will pay your doctor for ailments that you created, all because you believe that you're supposed to get your minerals from drinking liquids, and you get minerals from your food. Such misinformation. I have done well over 3,000 mineral evaluations using a combination of blood, urine, and hair tests in my practice. Almost without exception, people who consume distilled water exclusively eventually develop multiple mineral deficiencies. Folks, what they're quantifying as mineral deficiencies, you're not going to get that from the way that he's telling you. Your cells are the life force of the body. And I want you to understand, cells don't eat or drink. The only thing that the cell uses is gas in liquid form. So as you drink distilled water, okay, the distilled water is going to begin to dissolve all the minerals that your body does not need, because remember, the minerals harden the soft tissues. It causes sclerosis of the tissues. So that's what distilled water will begin to do, allowing for better absorption of the fluid gases. Fluid gases. Fluid gases. So again, I'm not discounting his study and maybe even his conclusions of people having mineral deficiency, but I question how they measure the mineral deficiency. I question. And then it says those who supplement their distilled water intake with trace minerals are not as deficient, but still not as adequately nourished in minerals as their non-distilled water drinking counterparts, even after several years of mineral supplementation. Again, understanding the human organism being a mass of trillions of cells, and understanding that molecules do not eat, atoms do not eat, electrons do not eat, and therefore we can conclude cells do not eat, because that's what cells are. Cells are pretty much molecules, which is atoms, which is that has electrons, and therefore we can conclude that the body does not need food. The body does not need drink. Now, mentally, we do, because we have been born into a society that as soon as we're born and we start crying, our mother sticks a bottle or her nipple in our mouth, thus bringing about the solidification or the speedy death of the human organism. Because we have to just think back, living to be 900, 800 years, and there is case studies of breatharians who have proven doctors wrong in their so-called theory that we need food and water to live, through them not eating or drinking. So again, the amount of information you contain, then you'll be able to come to a good conclusion. You might not have enough information to come to a good conclusion right now, but by the end of this video, you will. And it says the ideal water for the human body should be slightly alkaline. And this requires the presence of minerals like calcium and magnesium. And those are the things, folks, that will begin to harden your body. You see, because we say we need calcium for our bones. And your bones don't absorb calcium without, an equal part of magnesium. Well, that may be the medical science of today, but we're not talking about medical science, folks. We're talking about an organism that medical science did not create. And when you understand that breatharians existed long times ago, and they lived longer than what we're getting today, and today, because we have all the fast food joints and we're eating more processed foods, and we have all the sugary, unnatural sugary snacks, and they put sugar in almost everything, our human organism is dying prematurely, and we lay it not to thought. Mainstream science has made us think that our bodies are faulty, and that It is just because we are frail human beings. And I'm here to let you know that when the human organism was created, it was created to live forever without dis-ease, because it was made without the hands of man. And this is the temple that the unseen creation feels. The unseen creator feels your body. So what you are breathing is the breath of life, which is the creator or the creation, and that all living organisms is connected to. And once you stop breathing, you are disconnected from that breath, that life force. So I just say, I don't believe what mainstream medical teaches us, because mainstream medical would not be in business if we all understood how to care for the cell tower that we are. They would not be in business, folks. They are only in business because they keep us in ignorance of how to take care of our human bodies by teaching us to eat and drink. Most of the commercialism goes away when you have no need of food or water. And then the doctors, the medical industrial complex falls, because if you're not eating and drinking, then you don't get sick, especially if you live in an environment where the air quality is not polluted with the industrialization that man has created. But continuing on with this article, distilled waters tend to be acidic and can be only recommended as a way of drawing poisons out of the body. Well, isn't that great? They do say something very positive. Yes, it's acidic. We know that. But knowing that your body is a natural alkalizing machine, you don't have to worry about the acidicness of it. Okay? Because your body's going to do what it's supposed to do when getting the pure water. You best believe that. But the key thing I want you to focus on is it draws poison out of the body. Wouldn't that prolong our lives? Wouldn't that cause us to live 800, 900, 700 years if we begin to stop putting this list of junk food, meats, sugar, alcohol, fried food, soft drink, processed food, white flour, and dairy? I would even go on further to say just food, period. But you got to get your mind right for that. You can't just stop eating and you ain't prepare your mind. You got to renew your mind with this information. You got to meditate on it. You got to become convinced. Basically, faith comes by hearing. So you got to basically develop the belief that that the human body is not sustained by food. See, the reason why food cannot sustain the human body is because the human body was not created by food. And that which did not create the human body cannot sustain the human body. Okay? The human body can only be sustained by that which it was created from, which is the gaseous condensate that solidified in the womb of your mother, that fluidified in the womb. Okay. So we really, really do want to remove poisons from our body, right? And then it says, once this is accomplished, the continued drinking of distilled water, it becomes bad. Why? Why would it become bad? Why? It's only going to remove the poisons. It's not going to remove anything that it needs. And that's where scientists don't give the creator any credit, because they're telling you that he would create pure water to remove poison. But then after you remove the poison, you got to stop drinking the pure water, because the creator didn't create the body to accept pure water, other than the fact that it's only supposed to be drunk to remove poison. The creator accomplished that goal when he gave us rainwater. And I say, consider, reason. It says, once this is accomplished, The continued drinking of distilled water is a bad idea. Well, I disagree with this Dr. Nikola. I disagree. I mean, yes, he has a certificate from a degree from accredited medical school, but he paid a lot of money for that. If somebody gave me a lot of money for a piece of paper to say that I have the credentials, hell, I might write a certificate too. But what I'm saying is, let's set the certificate aside and just think about the Creator and His infinite wisdom of creating you without the work of man's hand. And we understand that the blood really is nothing more than gas in fluid form. It is the elements of gases condensed in fluid form flowing through your body. And you don't want to drink mucky waters clogging up the blood, because the blood is the life of a thing. The blood is the life of a thing. The blood determines the condition of the whole body. And it carries all of those impurities from the water and begins to deposit it in the walls of the arterial walls, the soft tissues, the joints of bones, and the brain, and the organs. And then you have all these degenerative aging diseases that ages you, and you don't know. The doctors just say, oh, it's hereditary, because of their lack of understanding of how to take care of the temple of God or the kingdom of God. So water filtered through reverse osmosis tend to be neutral and is acceptable for regular use, provided minerals are supplemented. People listen, they created a whole industry based off of propagandizing that our body needs these solid, earthy minerals that the body really is not going to use. But again, I will not tell you not to use minerals, because it's all based on your own understanding and faith in those things. We got what we call the placebo effect. The placebo effect is basically a study that they did giving people sugar pills for created Prozac out of sugar, and a lot of people recovered. The people but it was nothing good in the Prozac medicine. The people, belief is what healed them. So belief has a lot to do with the basically healing of our body. As a man thinketh, so is he. So yes, belief plays a vital, important role in understanding that the body does not need food or water, and that we only eat and drink, just like it's a bad habit of people smoking and drinking and doing drugs. Okay, so just because you get hunger pains don't mean that the body needs the food. That's just a created addiction, and therefore, as a drug addict, an alcoholic, or smoker body begins to crave the poison that is seeking, does not mean that the body needs it. So we have to use reasoning and see through the smoke screen. All right. Water filtered through a solid charcoal filter is slightly alkaline. Ozonation is this charcoal filtered water is ideal for daily drinking. So the ozonation of this charcoal filtered water is what they're saying is ideal for drinking. Longevity is associated with the regular consumption of hard water. Did y'all hear this lie? I mean, seriously, people, listen to this bold-faced lie right here. Longevity is associated with the regular consumption of hard water, and then in parentheses it has high minerals. Folks, you know what this is going to cause? And then it says disease and early death is more likely to be seen with the long-term drinking of distilled water. No, drinking hard water is going to bring that disease and early death, folks. This right here, this statement right here, is why they will not put these things in their machines. It's because they understand that this will produce clogging and hardening and failure of those machines. And when you drink this hard water that this man just told you to do to speed up your death and bring about the very diseases that he said distilled water causes, where are those diseases? Osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, coronary disease, high blood pressure, and a long list of degenerative diseases generally associated with premature ages. Folks, what he just told you to drink right here, hard water, that's what's going to cause all of those diseases and the pre-aging, or shall I say, the premature aging. So, again, this is from an article that Dr. Nikola wrote on his website, www.mercola.com. All right. And now I'm going to take you to a video by the doctor himself. Dr. Nikola discusses water filters. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Dr. Nikola, and today we're going to talk about a very important topic, that is the water you and your family drinks. You know, none of us can last more than a few days without water because we'll die of dehydration. So it really is a crucial topic. Each and every one of us need a high quality water supply. So what are the options? Well, ideally, your best option to get the highest quality water you can possibly achieve is really from getting it from a mountain spring. Now, fortunately, there are resources you can do this, and typically many of these mountain springs, there's no charge to get them. All you have to do there is go to these springs. Even non-mountain springs at sea level would be fine too. Not quite as good as the mountain springs, but they're there. There's a resource called findaspring.com that you can go to, and you can find a local spring, and that would be the best. Now, of course, there's some time, effort, and energy involved, but if you can do that, that's certainly what I would recommend. And next down the line is a well water, and typically there's not going to be any fluoride, and there are far less contaminants involved. Fortunately, I live in a property that has a well, so I'm able to have this type of water. And many of the wells, however, will still need some filtration to improve and optimize the system. But I would say 90% of people viewing this are getting their water supply from a municipal water supply, and that is loaded with problems, and that's what I want to discuss now. Typically, in a municipal water supply, you're going to have to find things. Like I said, 90% of those water supplies are fluoridated, at least in the United States. And there is a challenge. If you don't believe it's a challenge, please look on my website. But it is a significant issue, and it's particularly problematic because it's very difficult to remove, even with the best water filter systems. It's really almost impossible to get 100% of it out. But then, you know, the average person in this country is, at least in the United States, is taking 13 drugs a year. And what do you think happens to those drugs? Well, when you swallow them, they're excreted in your urine or your stool, so they wind up in the water supply. Or if you don't wind up not taking them, you throw them in the garbage. They typically will wind up eventually in the water supply too. So these drugs are in the water, and they're typically not removed from a traditional water filtration system. And then the distribution systems, water comes from the water filter plant to your home, and then from your home into your faucet through pipes. And the pipes can be made up of a variety of different materials, which can also add to the problem. But of course, the most common additive and concern in a water supply would be chlorine. And chlorine is, of course, added to improve or decrease the likelihood that you're going to get sick. So thankfully, in most Western countries, the chlorine has virtually eliminated all those types of problems. But it does so at a cost. And the cost is that the chlorine, it's not normal. It's not only going to kill back pathogens in the water, but also kill your own gut infections. But even more importantly, and this is the real risk, is the chlorine can combine with organic material in the water and in your body to form something that's called a disinfection byproduct, or a DPB for short. Most common ones would be trihalomethanes or indole acetic acids. So these are dangerous because they're about 10,000 times more dangerous than chlorine and with respect to increasing cancers and causing other complications and problems. So this is definitely something you do not want in your water supply. So I think it's pretty clearly established that if...
No, it's not clearly established. We're about to discredit Dr. Nikola and what he just said about drinking. I mean, he's right. Don't get me wrong. Tap water, anybody drinking tap water, man, you got to wake up. You have to wake up. Yes, tap water is full of everything that he mentioned. Yes. But he made a statement in the beginning and said the best water you can be drinking is water from a spring flowing down a mountain. Yeah, that's going to pick up all that earthly sediment that you're going to put in your body. That's going to turn you into a rock and create all those diseases that was mentioned in the article by Dr. Nikola that said distilled water causes. Well, he said those diseases are caused from acid and the lack of minerals. And I'm telling you, those diseases are caused from minerals, period. From the earthy minerals from the food, from the earthy minerals from your water, because you are ignorantly creating them. And this is another video where the guy is going to say Dr. Nikola is wrong.
Now, throughout this show, you're going to see some things about water that you've probably never seen before. And I want you to think about a decision in your own personal life, what you're going to do about the water you're drinking, because that's your job tonight as we go through this show, is to decide what kind of water you're going to drink from now on. You're going to learn some things about water that you've never learned before. Now we're going to show you some water. This is tap water, and we're going to kind of like put this on a trial tonight, and we're going to prove that this water is absolutely filthy and unable to do the job the water is intended to do. This is distilled water. We're going to prove that it's pure water. It's absolutely pure, and it's the water we should put in our body, and we'll be able to see the difference between these two waters real quick. The first test we're going to do with water is called the boil test. And what we do is we boil down a half a cup of distilled water in this pot over here. It's the only thing my wife lets me cook. And then we're going to boil down a half a cup of tap water in this pot over here. Now, these waters are clean. When that water is all boiled out of those pots, the only thing that should be left in there is nothing, right? If the water's clean. We'll see which water is the cleanest. This is distilled, this is tap. We'll start that test because it takes a few minutes. But one question I have here, does water conduct electricity? You know, if it's tap water, it's absolutely filthy, we know it does. If I touch these two wires together, that light goes on. That's an open circuit. If he's an electrician, he'd call it a normally open circuit. If I put it in distilled water, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and that's nothing because those two wires I'm touching, that's an open circuit. It shouldn't light the light. But if I put it in tap water, it closes that gap. There's something in that water that's making that gap close. And the difference between these two waters is this is absolutely filthy water, this is pure water. Tap water started out as distilled water. In nature, we have lakes, rivers, and streams. The sun heats these vessels of water up and the vapor rises to the upper atmosphere, where it's cooled and condensed back into water. Whenever you take water and change it to vapor, and then back to water, just like this vapor's coming out of the pot here, that's distillation. Rainwater, though, falls through an absolutely filthy atmosphere. It's completely void of anything in it. It's distilled water. But everything in the air is gathered up by the distilled water and taken down to the earth. So you have emissions from factories, smog, solvents from all kinds of chemicals, emissions from cars, trains, planes, and buses. All that is in the air. That's one reason the light is on in the tap water. Our tap water hits the ground. In 1 teaspoon of dirt, we got billions of bacterium, virus, and parasites. The reason we do is because every animal and insect that's ever lived, reproduced, died, and decomposed has become part of the soil, and that's the food for them. When the rain hits the ground, it picks up these bacterium, virus, parasites, decayed animals, and insects, carries them to a lake, a river, a spring, a well, it doesn't matter. And that water is full of everything that's in the soil. It comes to a lake, the fish live there and they die there. And we drink that. We drink everything that's in the soil, every microorganism, everything that comes in contact with water, water absorbs and transports it. Our water comes to a treatment plant where we're chemically treating our water. That's why it's called a treatment plant. Our water is exposed to many chemicals. This is a newspaper from Utah called Capital Connections, news for about people in state government. The Utah State Seal. On the back of it, it says, making sure your water is safe. It's written about Eva Neminsky. She has a PhD in environmental engineering. She's over all 50 water treatment plants in the state of Utah. She says right here, we're learning about very resistant pathogens in water. They're very difficult to kill, so you need strong disinfectants. These chemicals may ultimately cause cancer over your lifetime. So the question becomes, would you rather have diarrhea today or cancer tomorrow? So who wants diarrhea and who wants cancer? Pretty good choice there, huh? That's the two choices we have, drinking tap water. I think that we should drink something else other than that. The cancer they're talking about is prostate cancer, bladder cancer, colon cancers. That's your urinary tract cancers, because that's where the water goes first, and we're exposed to all the chemicals that's in those waters. We know chlorine mixes with acids in water, and that causes trihalomethane compounds. It's linked to spontaneous miscarriages and various cancers. That's according to USA Today newspapers, Johns Hopkins University in New York, and they're the ones that conducted those tests. When our water leaves the water treatment plant, it goes through the pipe system. Sometimes these pipe systems are hundreds of miles long and hundreds of years old. In Ogden, Utah, where we're shooting this, our pipes are 108 years old. They're cast iron with lead joints coming out of a canyon, out of a reservoir. It goes for hundreds of miles here in the city, back and forth to different houses, comes up into our tap, and we turn these taps on and drink out of our beautiful faucets and think nothing about the journey that water was on. And it's a long, filthy journey, because everywhere that water's been is where we walk. So everything that's on the bottom of your shoe is in your water, if you ever think about it that way. That's why when we put the light in tap water, it conducts electricity. There's 80,000 chemicals in our water. In 1903, we had 3 people and 100 dying of cancer. In that 100 years till now, we've developed 80,000 commercially produced chemicals. And right now, 1 in 4 people die of cancer, and 1 in 3 people get cancer. The cancer rate is still rising. And you think about chemicals in our life. We wash our hair with chemicals, we brush our teeth with chemicals, we wash our clothes with chemicals, we have chemicals on our food. We're a chemical society. The only thing that takes that out of our body is the water we drink. Water absorbs and cleans everything out of our body as it goes through our system. Distilled water is way different. It doesn't conduct any electricity. We know it's absolutely pure water. The journey that distilled water takes is way different than tap water. We bring water in a boiling chamber to boil. The steam rises and leaves all the impurities behind in the boiling chamber. The steam forces the coil, the fan cools the coil, changes the steam into 99.9% pure water. Periodically, we drain this boiling chamber out. So when we make 50 gallons of water through the distillation process, what was in 50 gallons of water now is trapped in the boiling chamber. When we clean that out, we sometimes are totally amazed with the amount of filth that's in that boiling chamber. Like in Salt Lake City, that's what's in 50 gallons of Salt Lake City water after we clean the boiling chamber out. And people wonder why they're getting sick, why they have diseases. This is Ogden, Utah right here. That's 50 gallons of Ogden City water. Isn't that weird? How much filth is in tap water. You never would believe it unless you see it for yourself. Morgan, up where you work. This is about 80 gallons of Morgan City water. Does that look like one of the chemicals they add at the water treatment plant? It does, doesn't it? It's copper sulfate. Now, the reason that they put copper sulfate in the water up there is because they have algae growing in the pipelines, and copper sulfate is an algicide. Now, algae won't hurt us. Well, we can eat algae, but when it starts to die and rot in water, it smells. You smell the Great Salt Lake. when the algae starts to grow and rot, it's got quite an odor to it. Well, when it has that gas inside these pipelines, and they inject chlorine into it, it creates trihalomethanes gas. Okay, and that's very carcinogenic. That's where we come up with prostate cancer, bladder cancer, colon cancer. This is, some lady told me the other day she only drinks spring water from North Ogden Spring. That's 30 gallons of the North Ogden Spring, and that's what's in spring water. Whenever you're drinking right out of the dirt, right out of the ground, you're drinking dirt. You're drinking filth. You're drinking everywhere you walk. Okay? You're drinking everything that's on the bottom of your shoe. It doesn't matter where that water's from. The filth is there. These inorganic minerals are what we're drinking. This is right out of a distiller. Does that look like it'd be nice for our inside of our body? Dr. Charles Mayo from the Mayo Clinic, he's got a clinic in Arizona, Minnesota. His quote here is, "Water hardness, or inorganic minerals in solution, is the underlying cause of many, if not all, diseases resulting from poisons in the intestinal tract. These hard minerals pass from the intestinal walls and get into the lymphatic system, which deliver all of its products to the blood, which in turn is distributed to all parts of the body. This is the cause of much human disease." Dr. Charles Mayo of the Mayo Clinic.
Folks, didn't I just say all of what this guy just said? Does that not smack Dr. Nikola right in his face for telling you that hard water is the best water for the body because of the high minerals? Did you not see the jars of junk for 30 gallons that was filtered? Well, imagine if you're just drinking that by the gallons without filtration and you filling your body up with that. Imagine the type of rock, a statue of ignorance you're going to become.
In Dr. Bannock's book, The Choice is Clear, he says if you're concerned about arthritis, hardening of the arteries, kidney stones, gallstones, cataracts, glaucoma, loss of hearing, diabetes, obesity, and emphysema, do not drink the inorganic minerals found in water. He just talked about the inorganic minerals. We've talked about 80,000 different chemicals in our water. We've talked about the insects, the bacterium, the virus, the parasites, the dead animals in our water. When I put a distiller in my home the very first week, this is what we took out of our distiller. That's what 6 people would have drank the first week. And when I got shown this to people and shown it to my wife and kids, I says, look, there's actually an animal hair in there. See that animal hair right there? There's 6 animal hairs in this bottle of water. I called the water guy up and I says, how come there's hair in our water this week? And he says, well, I thought we took that all out. I says, well, what was it? He says, we couldn't tell. It's too badly decomposed. I says, well, why didn't you tell everybody was drinking a dead animal this week? And he says, oh, don't worry. We put more chlorine in your water. So, chlorine's 400,000 times more poisonous than DDT. It's linked to a lot of diseases, even cardiovascular diseases, because it roughens up the artery walls inside our bloodstream and causes the inorganic minerals to start adhering to them because a rough spot makes it easier for things.
One of the diseases that Dr. Nikola mentioned that was caused by distilled water, folks, was high blood pressure. High blood pressure is caused by the water that contains all the minerals in it. It clogs your arteries. It begins to harden them as well. Think, folks. Reason. Things
to stick. You may go around 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, 70 years before you have any cardiovascular disease cause you any problems. But if the wrong blood vessel gets plugged up in your heart, they call that a heart attack, don't they? The wrong one gets plugged up in your brain, they call that a stroke. If the inorganic minerals get into our body, in our joints, in our ears, it causes aging diseases that we don't have any cure for. Right here in the laboratory, let's take distilled water through the same journey.
There is a cure for the aging diseases, and it's called distilled water. Distilled water will dissolve the hardening effect, removing the poisons and the mineral deposits throughout the body and the uric acid crystals in the joints that is giving you the discomfort, stiffness, and arthritis-like symptoms. And will begin to reverse the effect. And as it reverses the effect, you will actually begin to look younger. Yes, you will look younger. So, again, misinformation is out there. And I'm not saying that Dr. Nikola is intentionally misleading the people, but I just think he's an educated fool. But we know that educated fools sometimes don't use a whole lot of reasoning because they're taught and they got their degree and they spent a lot of money for it. So therefore, it's hard to just understand simple things when you've been taught something else. All right. So this guy right here is right on point with what he's saying, right on point in the path of truth.
The tap water's been on, and make the light go on. We'll have to add a lot of things to it. First thing we'll add to it is bacterium, virus, and parasites. I'll wash my hands in. 5 parts per million will make this light go on, and we'll see just how dirty my hands are. Pretty clean hands, huh? The tap water is still hundreds of times filthier than the distilled water. But the real funny thing about it is, though, you won't drink this water now, will you?
No.
Why not?
Because it has urine.
Yeah, but it's still hundreds of times cleaner than tap water. Did you see what your eyes just did to your brain now? You saw something in your water. What do you really want in your water? Nothing. Me too. When I saw this the first time, that's what I decided. I didn't want anything in my water. I wanted clean water. But we can take it a little bit further.
Right here, he just showed you where the tap water is conducting electricity. The distilled water is not conducting electricity. Imagine if people began to drink distilled water and fill their body up with this detoxing water that's a natural detoxing because it's pure, and we begin to get rid of all the muck that causes us to become a conductor of electricity, thus being lightning appealing. You become appealing to lightning when you full of the muck. Get rid of the muck. You get rid of the conductor of electricity where lightning is attracted to you.
I make the light go on. This is some of the inorganic minerals we get out of our distiller. We'll put some of that in there. We'll put some chemical from farms and factories in there. And we'll stir that around. So that's starting to look like now. Mountain Dew, right? That's what he's thinking. Now we'll take it to the water treatment plant where we'll add a little bit of technology to it. And we'll stir that around and we'll aerate it a little bit, just like even Minsky's talking about there. Add a little technology to the water. Right amount of chemicals we can make that awful looking water look just like tap water. Isn't that cool? Now let's see. Made it tap water. Yep. Now, according to Evan Minsky, that's safe water to drink. You won't want to drink it now? Why not? It's safe. What's the definition of safe water? Won't cause diarrhea today. Let's see what we've done here with the TDS meter. This TDS stands for total dissolved solids. That means anything that's totally dissolved in the water will show up with the TDS meter. Now, Ron, I want you to read this for me and tell me what parts per million that says. 0. 0, 0, 0 parts per million. Now, tap water, right from Ogden City here. Let's see what that's saying.
296, 308 now.
308. 308 parts per million. Now this water that Teresa wouldn't drink, let's see what that was. After I threw all that filth in there, 56, 54, it's still what, 6 times cleaner than tap water. Can you imagine how much filth is in tap water? If you could see where that tap water is found, all the carcasses of the animals, the dead insects, the inorganic minerals, the chemicals that's in this water, if you could see what was in that water that's making 296 parts per million, you'd never drink it. You'd never ever drink it. And you shouldn't.
While we're talking about drinking tap water, let's think about the aspect of we cook with tap water, we take showers with tap water, and we brush our teeth with tap water. With all the chemicals and everything that he mentioned still in it, having not been removed. So this is not just about drinking, because we actually absorb water, folks, when we take showers. That's right. So that's another aspect we might want to consider when dealing with tap water. You might not drink tap water, but are you doing anything else with tap water?
We only have 56 parts per million. You saw everything I put in there. You wouldn't even drink it after I washed my hands in there. We had 26 little girls in here one night, and they all washed their hands in here and still didn't get as dirty as tap water. Still didn't have as high a TDS reading as tap water. Let's check our pots out now over here and see what we've done. See how hot they are. Now
this test that he done with the pots, I challenge each and every one of you to find a glass pot or a stainless steel pot and boil the water that you drink until the pot is empty. And whatever is remained behind, imagine you drinking that and that accumulating in your body over time, never ever to be washed out because you're drinking the wrong water. And distilled water has the effect that it will reverse all of those impurities that your body didn't need, that is hardening and turning you into a statue. It will reverse that and you will begin to get back the soft, pliable tissues that is able to absorb water, moisture, and they will function the way they're supposed to function. The body will function perfectly in a moist, unhardened state. So let's understand that mineral water, spring water, purified water, hard water is creating and forming you into a statue because of your being misinformed and guided to become a participant in the medical industrial complex so they can profit off of you.
tap water, and this was distilled water. Is there a big difference there between the two waters? Quite a bit. This is just a half a cup of water. How many cups of water are we supposed to drink today? 8 cups. This is 8 cups boiled down. That's what you're drinking into your body every single day. 8 cups of water. That's 8 cups. That's one day.
And these are the things that is causing the degenerative, premature aging diseases. You are filling your body, the joints, the soft tissues, organs, arteries up with all of these inorganic materials that they call minerals. You cannot get minerals from water. Water was not intended for you to get minerals. Trying to get minerals from water has been deadly, has created dis-ease. Many people have succumbed through this ignorance. The only way to get minerals is in gaseous form that has been condensed in liquid such as water, hydrogen gas, and oxygen condensed into liquid. Again, some vegetables have a higher liquid content than others. Those that are high in liquid content will probably be better suited for the body, being that it is the liquid that is the gas, the juice, what we call the juice. And we know that fruits contain the highest concentration of juice. And those juices contain all the unseen gaseous elements in fluid form. All right? And that's what the body will begin to use. That's what the body recognizes immediately. So let's really understand how the physiology of the body gets its mineral intake, mainly through breathing. That's why a moist tropical atmosphere or high altitude is ideal place to live, because of the moisture that is in the air. And truly we should be breathing in the so-called water that we need through the respiration.
This is 30 days, 365 days, and this is 10 years. How old are you?
45.
45. We've run 4.5 goes through your body. Okay? You divide that out, every one of them. That's what your body has to deal with drinking tap water. Our bodies are wonderful machines, aren't they? They can handle a lot of filth. But after so many years of drinking filth into our body, it has an accumulation effect. And someday it's going to cause us some health problems. We had a brand new Lincoln Continental, and we opened up the hood and poured this down the oil spout of that car. What would the dealer say to us about the warranty on that engine? He'd say it was void, wouldn't he? And he should, but you know, our body's the same way. It says here that even the finest piece of machinery on earth depends on proper maintenance to run smoothly.
Did y'all hear that? Your body is the finest machine on earth, and man has been endeavoring very, very hard to try and duplicate it. I know a lot of you believe in human cloning. Well, he may have been able to clone, but I guarantee you, without the spirit, it's just that, a clone. It's not human life. You need the spirit of the unseen creation that make up our soul inhabiting this temple of cells. So, yes, the body is the most finely tuned machine, and through ignorance, we destroy it, and because of our destruction, we prematurely pass away. We prematurely leave this beautiful world of ours. But it is not the way it's supposed to be. Water should be the basic clean things that we get into our body, put into our body. But we're not, because some hoodwink salesman has pitched to us that distilled water, it pulls the minerals out of the body. Yeah, it pulls all that earthly stuff that don't belong there out, because that's the way the Creator designed it. The Creator designed it to pull those minerals out of your body so that your tissues would remain soft, pliable, and flexible, and be able to absorb the way they're supposed to, instead of having a concrete layer on top of it. Think. It's not outlawed yet. They're trying to, but I'm asking you, think.
And our body is the most amazing machine on the face of the earth. It's run on solar power. We eat carbohydrates, and they're produced by the sun from plants that we eat. And we reproduce, and when we get a cut,
He said one thing: we run on solar power, the etheric energy, the prana. That is a substance. That is a life substance that is in the atmosphere that we breathe in, folks. And that is the only reason why we are still alive, why we destroy our body through eating and drinking. So don't get it twisted. It is the solar radiation and only that's keeping us alive. That's why the sun is called the light of life. That's why they'll tell you, oh, you can get vitamin D from being in the sun, but they ain't going to tell you that the sun pretty much is the light of life that produces all the things that the body needs. All we got to do is breathe. Breathe. But get your mind right before you try and take on just breathing. Because the mind, renewing the mind with the information, understanding that man should not live off of bread alone, but off every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. People, the word is atom, A-T-O-M. That's what we're living off of, because that's what we're made of. We're made of that which we breathe, and that's why only that can sustain it. We're just a condensed version of the unseen gases that we are. We are never disconnected from the spiritual world, folks. We are never disconnected from the spiritual world. It is the spiritual word or world that is keeping us alive. It's called air. It's called etheric atmosphere that we breathe in. The breath of life saturates every cell within us. And because of pollution and from industrialization, it still has an aging effect. It still creates stresses on our body. But nevertheless, it is breathing that is keeping us alive and not eating. And I ask this question: if eating is what keeps us alive, as long as we got food and water available, one should never die. Think about what I just said.
heal. We have a pretty neat machine. Does your car fix itself when it breaks? It doesn't, does it? Our bodies are 71% water. There's nothing more important to our body than the water we drink. And if we're putting this much filth into our machine every single day, we kind of void the warranty on our machine. We are, aren't we?
Some of you might say, well, I don't drink tap water. I drink spring water. Or I drink purified water. Or I drink mineral water. Well, put your water to the test. Put and boil water in a nice clean glass pan saucer or a stainless steel saucer, and look what is left behind. Because what is left behind, just remember, that is what's accumulating in your body, because your body is not going to get rid of it because it don't belong there. So therefore, because you're not drinking the water that will dissolve those impurities, you're drinking water that creates those impurities, and therefore you suffer. So put your water to the test. Boil it and see what is left behind, because that's what the doctors say you need in your body. Yeah.
How long do we get to stay in our machine? Till we wear it out, till we put enough filth in it and we wear it out. And then we can leave our machine. So there's nothing more important to us than our health, is there? We can have all the money we want. We can have all the time we want. We can squander all the money and time we want. If we squander our health, all our time and our money will be spent trying to get our health back.
And that's where we're going to end with that particular video. Okay. All right. So what about this picture here? Distilled water. All right. It says for use in all small appliances. Well, I ask you, should we start using it in our own appliance, being the body? You are a machine. You are the most sophisticated machine ever to be created without human hands being involved. So why would you put any other water other in your machine to clog up your machine? Why wouldn't you use the water that they use in their machines? Think about it. So now I'm going to go through how we get distilled water. So right here it says distilled water has been purified by steam distillation. Steam distillation. Okay. So let's see steam distillation. What's the definition of steam distillation?
Steam distillation is a special type of distillation, a separation process, for temperature-sensitive materials like natural aromatic compounds. It once was a laboratory method for purification of organic compounds, but has become obsolete by vacuum distillation. Steam distillation remains important in certain industrial sectors. Many organic compounds tend to decompose at high sustained temperatures. Separation by distillation at the normal 1 atmosphere boiling points is not an option, so water or steam is introduced into the distillation apparatus. The water vapor carries small amounts of the vaporized compounds to the condensation flask, where the condensed liquid phase separates, allowing for easy collection. This process effectively allows for distillation at lower temperatures, reducing the deterioration of the desired products. If the substances to be distilled are very sensitive to heat, steam distillation may be applied under reduced pressure, thereby reducing the operating temperature further. After distillation, the vapors are condensed. Usually the immediate product is a two-phase system of water and the organic distillate, allowing for separation of the components by decantation, partitioning, or other suitable methods. When mixture of two practically immiscible liquids is heated while being agitated to expose the surface of each liquid to the vapor phase. Each constituent independently exerts its own vapor pressure as a function of temperature, as if the other constituent were not present. Consequently, the vapor pressure of the whole system increases. Boiling begins when the sum of the vapor pressure two miscible liquids just exceeds the atmospheric pressure, approximately 101 at sea level. In this way, many organic compounds insoluble in water can be purified at a temperature well below the point at which decomposition occurs. For example, the boiling point of bromobenzene is 156 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. But a mixture of the two boils at 95 degrees Celsius. Thus, bromobenzene can be easily distilled at a temperature 61 degrees Celsius below its normal boiling point. Steam distillation is employed in the isolation of essential oils, for use in perfumes, for example. In this method, steam is passed through the plant material containing the desired oils. Eucalyptus oil and orange oil are obtained this method on an industrial scale. Steam distillation is also sometimes used to separate intermediate or final products during the synthesis of complex organic compounds. Steam distillation is also widely used in petroleum refineries and petrochemical plants, where it is commonly referred to as steam stripping. Steam distillation also is an important means of separating fatty acids from mixtures, and for treating crude products such as tall oils to extract and separate fatty acids, soaps, and other commercially valuable organic compounds. On a lab scale, steam distillations are carried out using steam generated outside the system and piped through macerated biomass or steam generated in situ using a Clevenger-type apparatus.
right, so now we know what steam distillation is. Here's a word.
Immiscible. Immiscible.
Immiscible. Of liquids, not forming a homogeneous mixture when added together, such as oil and water. Okay? Oil and water. The term miscible and immiscible are used in chemistry to describe mixtures. Immiscible is the property where two substances are not capable of combining to form a homogeneous mixture. Folks, minerals in your water is immiscible. It turns the water and makes it an immiscible mixture. The components are said to be immiscible if it's not a homogeneous mixture. And yes, minerals in your water is not homogeneous for the body. All right? It's not homogeneous for the body. So let's remember that word, immiscible. All right? And back to the picture. Okay, so we have, just a second. We have carbon filtration. So distilled water was created by steam distillation and then a carbon filtering. So now we're going to look at what do they mean by carbon filtering.
Carbon filtering is a method of filtering that uses a bed of activated carbon to remove contaminants and impurities, using chemical adsorption. Each particle/granule of carbon provides a large surface area/pore structure, allowing contaminants the maximum possible exposure to the active sites within the filter media. 1 pound, 454 grams, of activated carbon contains a surface area of approximately 100 acres, 40 hectares. Activated carbon works via a process called adsorption, whereby pollutant molecules in the fluid to be treated are trapped inside the pore structure of the carbon substance. Carbon filtering is commonly used for water purification, in air purifiers and industrial gas processing. For example, the removal of siloxanes and hydrogen sulfide from biogas. It is also used in a number of other applications, including respirator masks, the purification of sugarcane, and in the recovery of precious metals, especially gold. It is also used in cigarette filters. Active charcoal carbon filters are most effective at removing chlorine, sediment, volatile organic compounds, VOCs, taste and odor from water. They are not effective at removing minerals, salts, and dissolved inorganic compounds. Typical particle sizes that can be removed by carbon filters range from 0.5 to 50 micrometers. The particle size will be used as part of the filter description. The efficacy of a carbon filter is also based upon the flow rate regulation. When the water is allowed to flow through the filter at a slower rate, the contaminants are exposed to the filter media for a longer amount of time.
Okay, so now we see carbon filter is also used in the process of distillation. Okay, the next term we're going to look at, microfiltration. So distilled water is purified by steam distillation first, carbon filtration, and microfiltration. So microfiltration
Microfiltration, commonly abbreviated to MF, is a type of physical filtration process where a contaminated fluid is passed through a special pore-sized membrane to separate microorganisms and suspended particles from processed liquid. It is commonly used in conjunction with various other separation processes such as ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis to provide a product stream which is free of undesired contaminants. Microfiltration usually serves as a pretreatment for other separation processes such as ultrafiltration, and a post-treatment for granular media filtration. The typical particle size used for microfiltration ranges from about 0.1 to 10 microsien m. In terms of approximate molecular weight, these membranes can separate macromolecules of molecular weights generally less than 100,000 grams/mol. The filters used in the microfiltration process are specially designed to prevent particles such as sediment, algae, protozoa or large bacteria from passing through a specially designed filter. More microscopic, atomic or ionic materials such as water, H2O, monovalent species such as sodium, the plus, or chloride, Cl, ions, dissolved or natural organic matter, and small colloids and viruses will still be able to pass through the filter. The suspended liquid is passed though at a relatively high velocity of around 1-3 meters/s and at low to moderate pressures, around 100-400 Pa, parallel or tangential to the semi-permeable membrane in a sheet or tubular form. A pump is commonly fitted onto the processing equipment to allow the liquid to pass through the membrane filter. There are also two pump configurations, either pressure-driven or vacuum. A differential or regular pressure gauge is commonly attached to measure the pressure drop between the outlet and inlet streams. See Figure 1 for a general setup. The most abundant use of microfiltration membranes are in the water, beverage and bioprocessing industries. See below. The exit process stream after treatment using a microfilter has a recovery rate which generally ranges to about 90-98%. Membrane filtration processes can be distinguished by three major characteristics: driving force, retentate stream and permeate streams. The microfiltration process is pressure-driven with suspended particles and water as retentate and dissolved solutes plus water as permeate. The use of hydraulic pressure accelerates the separation process by increasing the flow rate, flux, of the liquid stream but does not affect the chemical composition of the species in the retentate and product streams. A major characteristic that limits the performance of microfiltration or any membrane technology is a process known as fouling. Fouling describes a deposition and accumulation of feed components such as suspended particles, impermeable dissolved solutes, or even permeable solutes, on the membrane surface and or within the pores of the membrane. Fouling of the membrane during the filtration processes decreases the flux and thus overall efficiency of the operation. This is indicated when the pressure drop increases to a certain point. It occurs even when operating parameters are constant: pressure, flow rate, temperature and concentration. Fouling is mostly irreversible, although a portion of the fouling layer can be reversed by cleaning for short periods of time. Microfiltration membranes can generally operate in one of two configurations: cross-flow filtration, where the fluid is passed through tangentially with respect to the membrane. Part of the feed stream containing the treated liquid is collected below the filter, while parts of the water are passed through the membrane untreated. Cross-flow filtration is understood to be a unit operation rather than a process. Refer to Figure 2 for a general schematic for the process. Dead-end filtration. All of the process fluid flows and all particles larger than the pore sizes of the membrane are stopped at its surface. All of the feed water is treated at once subject to cake formation. This process is used for batch or semi-continuous filtration of low-concentrated solutions. Refer to Figure 3 for a general schematic for this process.
Alright, that was pretty long. Basically, we have microfiltrations filters in our body. It's called the liver and the kidneys. And when your liver and kidneys become hardened, it is because of the minerals deposited from the poor drinking quality of your water. Because you have bought into this idea that distilled water is bad for you. Folks, distilled water will keep your kidneys and liver soft, pliable, flexible, and clean so that they can do the job that they was created and put into the body to do. You just simply need understanding. We're going to talk about volatile organic compounds, VOCs, the impact of VOCs. What is a VOC? Okay. VOC is a volatile organic compound. When we talk about distilled water removing organic minerals, basically it's really not organic minerals, it's inorganic. That's the misinformation. They just don't tell you that. The body keeps what it needs, and water is not your enemy. Pure water is not our enemy like we have been taught. But anyway, VOCs are compounds are emitted as gases from certain solids or liquids, which include a variety of chemicals. So basically the VOCs are basically what we get here. Volatile organic compounds means any compound of carbon, which they say excludes carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, carbonic acid, metallic carbides, or carbonates and ammonia carbonates, which participates in atmospheric photochemical reactions. So these are going to be your VOCs are in the atmosphere. And as you know, when it rains, basically those VOCs are taken out of the atmosphere. That's why you don't want to drink the first few minutes. You don't want to catch the first minutes of rain. You want to wait and allow those VOCs to be taken out of our atmosphere. All right. And then once you begin to catch rainwater that is clear, that is the rainwater that you can drink right then and right there. All right. So the VOCs are produced from organic chemicals widely used as ingredients in household products such as paints, varnishes, and wax. All contain organic solvents, as do many cleaning, disinfecting, and cosmetic, degreasing, and hobby products. Well, we read where they use distilled water for cosmetics. So I don't know about that. But anyway, basically fuels are made up of organic chemicals. And these VOCs in the atmosphere pretty much have an effect on our water supply. All right. That's pretty much what it's saying. And it is basically the VOCs are basically compounds of carbon. But they exclude carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and carbonic acid and other things. But it really is just basically compounds of carbon floating around in the air. All right. And this is where the microfiltration comes in. Or shall I say, I'm sorry, not microfiltration, but the steam distillation. All right. And this distilled water process is probably the best thing that our water can go through, being that we do have a lot of chemtrails, a lot of industrial air pollution, and what you think you're getting from your so-called spring water, you're getting all those VOCs that are not being treated. Some of these water companies say they get it right from the source of the spring. And as Dr. Nikola ignorantly said, he said, get it right from the stream rolling down the mountain. Do you see the ignorance of some people who have paid thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for their medical degrees? They don't think. But spring water definitely is a threat. Not just from the VOCs, but from the animals that die, that get caught up in these streams and rivers and lakes. So we really, really, really need to consider the purest water for our machine. The purest. All right? And we're going to listen to see what dissolved organic compounds are, or dissolved organic carbon, which is your VOCs.
Dissolved organic carbon, DOC, is a broad classification for organic molecules of varied origin and composition within aquatic systems. The dissolved fraction of organic carbon is an operational classification. Many researchers use the term dissolved for compounds below 0.45 micrometers. At 0.22 micrometers is also common, saving colloidal for higher concentrations. A practical definition of dissolved typically used in marine chemistry is all substances that pass through a GF/F filter. The recommended measure technique is a co-technique after filtration on pre-combusted glass fiber filters, typically GF/F filters. DOC in marine and freshwater systems is one of the greatest cycled reservoirs of organic matter on Earth, accounting for the same amount of carbon as the atmosphere and up to 20% of all organic carbon. The source of DOC depends on the body of water. In general, organic carbon compounds are a result of decomposition processes from dead organic matter such as plants or marine organisms. When water contacts highly organic soils, these components can drain into rivers and lakes as DOC. DOC is also extremely important in the transport of metals in aquatic systems. Metals form extremely strong complexes with DOC, enhancing metal solubility while also reducing metal bioavailability. DOC is a food supplement, supporting growth of microorganisms, and plays an important role in the global carbon cycle through the microbial loop. Moreover, it is an indicator of organic loading streams, as well as supporting terrestrial processing, for example, within soil, forests, and wetlands of organic matter. Dissolved organic high proportion of biodegradable dissolved organic carbon (DIC) in first-order streams compared to higher-order streams. In the absence of extensive wetlands, bogs, swamps, baseflow concentrations of DOC in undisturbed watersheds generally range from approximately 1 to 20 mg carbon. Carbon concentrations considerably vary across ecosystems. For example, the Everglades may be near the top of the range and the middle of oceans may be near the bottom. Occasionally, high concentrations of organic carbon indicate anthropogenic influences, but most DOC originates naturally. The DIC fraction consists of organic molecules that heterotrophic bacteria can use as a source of energy and carbon. Some subset of DOC constitutes the precursors of disinfection byproducts for drinking water. DIC can contribute to undesirable biological regrowth within water distribution systems. More precise measurement techniques developed in the late 1990s have allowed for a good understanding of how DOC is distributed in marine environments both.
Okay, so these dissolved organic carbon compounds can infect the water supply or these spring water supplies. And yes, the doc said that spring water running down that mountain is the best water you can drink, not taking into account the VOCs or the DOCs, the DOCs, that affect those spring waters. And then you're going to put them in your body. And let's say your diet is healthy, and next thing you know, because you put all of these VOC carbon in your body from drinking them, now you come down with cancer and you can't figure out what happened. You can't and then some people think that it's hereditary. The only thing that's pretty much hereditary is us continuing on doing the same wrong thing that our ancestors have done and passed down to us. But there is no true hereditary gene, a disease of a gene. That's false. That's what medical science want you to think and believe. And I just say, raise your conscience. You are more than what they taught you. You are more than what they taught you. They did not teach you the mind-blowing mechanics of the human organism. You are a true spiritual being now in a fallen state. You are born a perfect spiritual being. And then the parents corrupt you. Our parents corrupt us into that which we grow up to become. And it is not from a purposeful, it is only from ignorance. And this book right here, Man's Higher Consciousness by Hilton Hotima. This is lesson number 19. And it starts out with the title, Water Causes Aging. Water causes aging. What type of water causes aging? Because most people don't drink distilled water. So what types of water is causing aging? And then there's a quote. If hardening of the arteries could be prevented, our lifespan would be pushed far beyond the dreams of man. End quote. And that was by Theo R. Van Dellen, M.D., in his daily column, How to Keep Well, in the press of March 25th, 1949. All right. So we're about to get into Man's Higher Consciousness now. The book, Man's Higher Consciousness, by Hilton Hotima, published in 1952 and then published in 1962. And right here, highlighted, I'm going to read that. It says, the body of the infant is soft and pliant. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The body of the infant is soft and pliant, mainly because that baby was suspended in what we call amniotic fluid, which was distilled waters. Yes, the baby was suspended in distilled waters. And that was how that baby came into existence. But then when you get out of the womb, you're no longer exposed to distilled water. You're exposed to, as Dr. Nikola said, hard waters, which is the best for you because of its high minerals. And then you set out on the process of creating yourself, turning yourself into a stone statue. And then the bones are plastic and flexible. And then after birth, the bones begin to fill with mineral salts. And this mineralization increases the size of the bones and their solidity. And for this reason, the growing child needs considerable lime, comparatively speaking, in the form of calcium carbonate and phosphate. Yes, but I assure you, you don't get that in the inorganic form as we do in our dietetic diets, plans. We get it to where the body is really not able to synthesize it and assimilate it into the body. And see, that baby begin to age very quick. We call it growing up, but it's actually aging, people. It's actually aging. Less minerals needed after maturity. The mineralization process is quite rapid until the body attains its growth. As growth stops, less lime salts are required for the body. This means that a change should be made in what one eats and drinks. When mineral salts enter the mature body in excess of requirements, they can no longer be used to develop and solidify the bones. Body development is done. So the excess minerals now begin to form damaging deposits in the body as its organs. Did y'all hear that? Let me read that again. When mineral salts enter the mature body in excess of requirements, they can no longer be used to develop and solidify the bones. Body development is done. So the excess minerals that Dr. Nikola said you need in your water now begin to form damaging deposits in the body and your organs. Thus, the soft, pliant body of childhood becomes hardened, stiffened body of old age. The spryness of youth becomes the slowness of decrepitude or discrepitude. Vitality decreases, senility comes. There is no mystery about the change. And Dr. Logan Clendening wrote, quote, in youth, the arteries are elastic, but as the body grows old, they become stiff on account of the replacement of their elastic tissues by fibrous tissues and lime salts. The very thing you're getting from your spring mineral and purified water or your hard waters. End quote. Another quote by Dr. Logan Clendening wrote, in many cases, the arteries may be markedly thickened and even so calcified as to have earned the term gooseneck arteries because the deposits of lime salts give them a corrugated feeling like that of a goose as one feels its neck. End quote. And this was in the human body. So this doctor says that excessive lime is now going to clog your arteries, which is going to create that high blood pressure. That's right. The very thing that the article said that distilled water is responsible for. Okay. It appears to be forgotten that the scleral process, the scleral, which is sclerosis, process affects the entire body. Cells, tissues, glands, blood vessels. Some of the smallest blood vessels become so hard and brittle that they burst under slight pressure. And this is caused not by distilled water, but by your spring, purified, and mineral and hard waters. Causes of sclerosis. The process of sclerosis, the condition of aging, rises from the following causes. Number one cause of sclerosis is bad air. Why? Because bad air is where you get all your VOCs, volatile organic carbons. Volatile organic carbons. Number two, bad water. That's about 90% of us. 90% of us are creating sclerosis of the tissues from the bad air that we really have no control over. The only control we have over getting rid of the bad air is by bringing air purifiers into our home or moving somewhere outside of industrialization and somewhere very high in the mountains where the air is pure and where they're not spraying these chemtrails. But number two, we got control over, folks. We have control over this one. There is no excuse for us getting bad water other than ignorance and ignoring facts that distilled water is better for us versus your spring, purified minerals, and hard waters. He said he had well water. And well water is worse than spring water. Why? For one, you probably got more stagnant water in your well. It's not moving like the spring water. And the sun is not hitting it. The sun don't hit well water. Well water is the worst water to drink. Well water is the hardest water. What we call hard water. Well water. Yes, you can put your filters in it, but you're still going to get most of the impurities. I know people in the country don't like to hear this. But yes, your well water is turning you into a statue. And then the third thing that causes sclerosis is bad food. Bad food. And we can control that too by limiting our food intake, because as breatharians, we don't have to eat as much as we eat, but they only program you to eat 3 meals a day because they know that that will do more damage. And then the foods that they have you eating do even more damage. So the student knows what we mean by bad food. He will soon know what we mean by bad water. Yet the food and water we call bad are consumed by millions and considered good. Isn't that the truth? The food and water that we call bad, that I'm calling bad, is consumed by millions who consider it good. It's only through ignorance and programming, folks. Remember, we're born into a system of commercialization. Even your very life has been commercialized when they issued you a stock certificate. Your birth certificate is a stock certificate because you are a human resource of the United States Corporation. Yes, you are. So, food is the third on our list, yet most authors put it first as being the reason for the cause of sclerosis. Most doctors consider food number one for causing sclerosis, when number one truly is polluted air. And then number two is polluted water. Why? Because water is gas in fluid form. Water is H2O, hydrogen, two atoms, and oxygen. And it's in fluid form though. Now, food is third. But doctors push that as being the reason for most of the sickness and diseases that we encounter. But it's the first two that is truly causing most of the sickness and disease. Food is just a compounding effect. Man, we getting bad water. We pretty much don't have any control other than moving somewhere far and high. And then we get bad water. And then we buy bad food and contaminate ourselves on top of the first two people. Wow. So then they give slight notice to the second one, which is bad water, and none to the first and leading cause, which is bad air. I mean, we got an EPA, but I ain't heard nothing from the EPA on all the concerns of people posting about the things they're spraying in the air. I ain't heard nothing. I ain't heard a spokesman come out to disclaim any of people's claims of them spraying chemicals over us. Water plays a big part in the ossification role because so much of the body is composed of water. And because most of the water used is that kind that produces ossification. Folks, what kind of water you think produces ossification? According to Dr. Mercola, it is not mineral water. Because he said, it is not distilled water. Because Dr. Mercola said distilled water don't have minerals. It don't have minerals. So if it don't have minerals, you best believe it is not distilled water that's causing the ossification. The body of the average infant is approximately 75% water. A man of 150 pounds in weight would weigh 50 pounds if he were all dried out. The more highly refined a tissue is, the greater the percent of water entering into its composition. Folks, the more highly refined a tissue is, in other words, the more soft, pliable, or pliant that tissue is, the greater water can enter into it, or the greater gas can enter into it. Because guess what? Your body is only using the gas of the water, and then you piss out what it did not need. That's right. Your body took the water that you drunk, and it pulled from it hydrogen gas and oxygen. That's right. Because the water that you drink is absorbed into the bloodstream, and the bloodstream keeps what it does need and sends to the kidneys. And if it's bad things suspended in the water you drink, it's going to deposit it in the soft tissues, in the joints, in the organs, as it go through your body, because it don't recognize it. So understand, your water is very valuable, and when you drink mineral treated water, you are causing ossification of your body, sclerosis. So the more highly refined the tissue is, the greater percent of water entering into its composition. The blood is 90% water. Some parts of the nerve system are 90% water. Others are 85%. And ordinary nerve tissue is about 80% water. The brain is 85% water. And the bones are nearly 50% water. So if all these areas need pure water, and you drinking your spring water, your mineralized water, your well water, your purified water, it's safe to say that you are hardening all these areas, which is going to cause your body not to function at the high efficiency that it needs to function at if it was soft, if it was pliable, if it was moist. Okay, just keep that in mind. People give great attention to what they eat, but little to the kind of water they drink. Well, that's changing. Man's consciousness is raising, and we are becoming more aware of the idea that distilled water is best. Because I used to drink a lot of spring water, a lot of well water when I lived in the country. And guess what? I'm suffering the consequences of it now. But thanks be to the creation, the universe, that I was awakened to the aspect of distilled water, and I can reverse and am reversing the effects of the lime deposits and the mineral deposits that have been accumulated in my body. So consider it a blessing, people, that this information is coming to you. Because if you are suffering from stiff joints, achy joints, arthritis, or a lot of diseases, you can actually begin to retard some of these ailments just from drinking distilled water and detoxing all of those areas that have become toxic with the filth of dead water. You need to drink a resurrected water that moves and that is free of contaminant, because those waters that is filled with contaminants is dead. It's called still water. You don't want to drink still water. You want to drink distilled water. Water that has been distilled. Okay? So, no matter how much the city water is poisoned by political health boards, the people use it and offer no protest. It pays to keep people ignorant. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Let me read this again. People give great attention to what they eat, but little to what kind of water they drink. No matter how much city water is poisoned by political health boards, the people use it and offer no protest. That's right. All those chemicals that they treat your water with, because it is a poison, they just add more poison to it, and you don't even protest it. You pay 300 and something thousand, 400 and something thousand, 500 and something thousand almost $1 million, and you can't drink the water that's coming out of your faucet. Yes, it does pay to keep people ignorant. In all the fluids and tissues, blood, lymph, nerves, glands, muscles, water plays the part of a general solvent. And didn't Dr. Nikola say that distilled water acts as an aggressive solvent? So now you're starting to see the pieces come together, the pieces of the puzzle of truth coming together. You want to drink the water that plays the role of a solvent because that's what the Creator created it to do. To wash the impurities away if, in fact, you begin to eat. All right? But again, in the beginning, we weren't eating or drinking. We were complete breatharians. Yes, we were breatharians, folks. Oh, you say, well, what about a baby? A baby got it. Yeah, that baby was getting distilled water from his mama titty. That's right. She wasn't drinking. The baby wasn't drinking your baby formulas that the corporations profit off of you today. Taking your most precious gift away from your most precious food, which is the breast. And now you ignorantly today think the doctors, the formulas and the medical institutions is right and nature is wrong. You don't even think about breastfeeding your child today. Most women don't even think about breastfeeding their baby. Because a lot of it's due to laziness, inconvenience. And when they create breast milk, or shall I say infant formulas, they create that for convenience, folks. So you can get your ass back to work. Because most women can't stay out of work too long, but they are changing that to where they're giving maternity leave. So that's good. But the point is, you're still not breastfeeding. Now, to all you women who are breastfeeding, kudos to you. But at the same time, you need to understand that once a baby starts getting a certain age, they start practicing and teaching the child breatharianism. And that child wasn't as glutinous and didn't have all the things that our children become addicted to today, such as, the fast food joints. So, starting again in this paragraph, in all the fluids and tissues, blood, lymph, nerves, glands, and muscles, water plays the part of a general solvent. By its work, the river of life is replenished and maintained. Folks, if you don't know what the river of life is, it is your blood. It is your blood. Your blood is the river of life. Okay? It is maintained and replenished by the river of life. It is the medium in which solid and semi-solid elements are dissolved so they can pass into the blood, and by which all excretory products are eliminated from the body. So water is supposed to carry these semi-solid and solid elements and dissolve them so that they can be carried to the excretory products to be eliminated from the body. But unfortunately for most of us, we're not drinking the type of water that has the dissolving effect, because our water has the very things in it that takes away from the dissolving effect. And it is called minerals. Minerals. Yes, we've been hoodwinked, folks. The various processes of excretion, transudation, and elimination depend on water for their performance. And if you're not drinking the right kind of water to dissolve those things, then you're not going to get the effects of that. It's going to have the opposite effect and build up in you. It's going to build up in you. All right. The importance of water. The importance of water. In the physiology of respiration, water and air unite, and water fulfills its biological function. in the form of vapor mixed with the atmosphere. Why? Because water is hydrogen gas and oxygen in fluid form, condensed into fluid form. You're drinking gases, people. Your blood is gas because your blood is a constituent of the atmosphere. So one of the reasons why babies sometimes born with all kinds of birth defects is because of the polluted air the mother is breathing. That's number one. The second reason is because of the bad water. The bad water. So the organism, the importance of its needs in living organisms appears in the fact that water occupies 4/5 of the Earth's surface. Water is so important that we have so many reservoirs of water for nature to distill it that we would have drinking water, folks. Because that's how important clean water is to the human organism. Look at yourself as a human organism. You are a structure of cells. And these cells have all the building blocks to repair itself. And it comes with the builders. So there's nothing that man can introduce into the body to aid the body in repairing itself from any ailment. We actually interrupt the process of regeneration when we introduce things into our body that we think can aid the body. The body was created without the hands, with the aid of man, and the body will sustain itself without the aid of man. You best believe it. All right. So the dual elements of water and air in combination in the atmosphere assure the supply of the total needs of man's vitality. They do so in three principal ways. All right. Three principal ways the dual elements of water and air in combination in the atmosphere assure the supply of the total needs of man's vitality. One, with the aid of the sun, which vaporizes the water of the earth and causes the water particles to unite with the atmospheric properties of the air so as to serve in the physiological process of respiration. Again, one of the best ways to get water in the body is through breathing in the water particles. But that requires you to be in a tropical climate where the air is moist. All right. Number two, by hematosis, or the aeration of the blood in the lungs in the function of respiration. There you have it. Breathing. Didn't I just say that? That's the best way to get water into the body. And number three, by supplying the body with the sustaining properties of oxygen and nitrogen in the air, and the oxygen and hydrogen in the water vapor. So these are the ways that the combination of atmosphere assure the supply of the total needs of man's vitality. All right. Let me read that third one again. By supplying the body with the sustaining properties of oxygen and nitrogen in the air, and the oxygen and hydrogen in the water vapor. So we have nitrogen in the air, and we have oxygen in the air, and we have hydrogen. And our body loves this. All right. Again, when we drink water, the body absorbs that water into the bloodstream, but it pulls from it the gas, folks. It only needs the gas of those condensed gases. It doesn't, and then whatever it doesn't need, if you drink enough of it, you'll be peeing it out. But guess what, folks? Your urine is also distilled. And all your body is saying is, I don't need this. Now, your body creates its own mineral salts. And therefore, we also get mineral salts from vegetables and fruit. Any other way you are getting your salt is causing you to become a pillar of salt. All right? So to this list, there must be added the emanations radiating from the sun's effluvia, which is condensed by the water vapor during its time in the atmosphere. The sun-filled vapor inhaled by man becomes an accumulator of the power of the sun within the body. I repeat, the sun-filled vapor inhaled by man becomes an accumulator of the power of the sun within the body. Water deprived of sunlight is termed dead and incapable of transfusing the least vitality into the organism, such as your well water. Your well water is pretty much dead because it's deprived of the sun. All you people out there living in the country, and you brag about how you got well water, you're drinking dead water. You're drinking water worse than someone getting it from a stream where the sun hits it. And such is the case with water from wells, closed cisterns, and distilled water in your factories. That's right. Yes, a lot of these factories producing the distilled water, that water is not getting the sun's effluvia. It's not being polarized, and therefore even that water is considered dead. It's not talking about the distilled water we've been talking about, people. I understand it says distilled water, but we understand these corporations that create distilled waters in mass production. That water is being stored in closed cisterns or wells. All right. Water should be exposed to the air and sunlight for some time before use. So if you are getting your water, from the corporations, put it in a container, let it get some air to it, and let it sit in the sun for a little bit. Let it gain back some of the power of the sun before you drink it. That's all you got to do. I'm not saying not to buy the distilled water from the corporation. I'm saying it's got to have air and sunlight for some time before you drink it, so it may be regenerated with the vitality of the sun and air. Because remember, the life force of all living things is in the air, people, and the sun. The sun polarizes it, empowers it to do what it do when you breathe it in. But this does not apply to water contained in coconuts, melons, berries, fruits, and vegetables. You hear that? The best distilled water to get is from coconuts, melons, berries, fruits, and vegetables. That is the best distilled water you can put into your body, because that gas, and when I talk about gas, I'm talking about the gases in condensed fluid form, what you call juice. No, I'm not telling you to go buy the commercialized juices that have been stripped down and destroyed of its true nature. I'm talking about straight from the fruit or vegetable itself, or the coconut, the melon, straight from it itself. The juice that is in it that has yet to be tampered with. That is the best distilled water man can put into his body, and that backs up what we read in Genesis, where the Lord God told us that the herb bearing seed and the fruit that bears seed with the seed in itself shall be food for us. Notice it didn't say fast food. It didn't say anything about fast food. Yeah, but then you read later on where it talks about, after the flood, now you can eat this. Well, I tell you what, if you think that man did not tamper with the Bible, you got to be a fool. Because, yes, the Most High was right when he gave you the fruit for food, because it has that gas and water in it all together. So when you consume the flesh, your body knows exactly what to do with it, and it begins to break down on its own, and the body uses less energy, thus creating less aging or stress on your body or immune system. So we got to understand how this living organism works. You are a living organism or a living cell. So the living cell is the basis and foundation of our body. The cell can function on the life level only in an aquaferous environment. Again, the cell can function on the life level only in an aquaferous environment. You know what aquaferous means. If the cells are deprived of water, they become dry, inert, and fall below the life plane in function, and they are called dead. There is no sign of living things, plants, and animals in deserts where perpetual dryness of the air prevails. Living forms cannot come into physical being where there is no water. Again, living forms cannot come into physical being where there is no water. Why is that? Because if everything is a gas first and it condenses into fluid form and eventually solidifies, because that's what we did, and that's what a lot of the elements that is in the earth did. Those same elements you find in the earth, people, exist in gas form in our atmosphere. You just never been taught that. All right. Much care should be exercised as to the kind of water one takes into the body. One kind hardens blood vessels, tissues, glands, and produces stones in kidneys and gallbladders. I ask you, since you've been listening to this video, what kind of water you think does that? What kind of water you think hardens blood vessels, tissues, and glands, and produces stones in kidneys and gallbladder? I think you know. And then it says another kind of water dissolves and washes from the body the mineral deposits that produce these conditions. And I ask you, what kind of water dissolves and washes from the body mineral deposits that produces the hardness of blood vessels, tissues, glands, and produce kidney stones and gallbladders? Which kind? You know. You done learned today. You done learned something today. Remember, faith comes by hearing. Most water used in general is what we call hard. And we know that Dr. Nikola said hard water is the best water for the body because it's high in minerals. Now are you starting to see how Dr. Nikola really is just an educated, ignorant fool, if in fact he know the true science of distilled water? Now don't get me wrong. I'm only saying that if Dr. Nikola is telling you one thing why he drinks distilled water himself. But if Dr. Nikola is drinking what he called the best water, hard water, then I feel for Dr. Nikola. And all of his degrees that he got and paid for is in vain and of no importance to him because it is not saving him. Folks, I'm trying to save lives with this information and save money. Save money. Put money in your pocket for you not creating ailments in your body that you can prevent. So most water used in general is what we call hard. It is water in which quantities of lime and other minerals are held in solution that you just don't see because they treated it. Spring water, well water, water that comes out of the ground is charged with lime and minerals in solution. Hence, such water is hard. And Dr. Nikola, if you ever get this far in my video, wake up. Wake up. Stop preaching this misinformation that hard water is the best water to drink because of its high content of minerals. Water from certain wells, springs, and lakes is often called salt. And I know a lot of you say, oh, that's what I drink, salt water. It is only soft, though, in comparison with water that is harder. But that's the only reason. But guess what? All of those wells or those springs and lakes have in it a lot more VOCs, a lot more dead animals, dead organisms. So you still not getting away that distilled water is best for you. And Dr. G.A. Dorsey wrote, quote, each year the Earth's rivers carries to the sea billions of tons of dissolved minerals and carbon compounds. There go your VOCs. There go your VOCs right there, your carbon compounds. Mineral water is not beneficial. To all of you running and buying mineral water and water that's been treated with minerals, listen up. Mineral water is not beneficial. Suffering people are often deceived by certain claims for mineral water from certain springs. Such water is very hard and very bad for the body. Your mineral water is a hard water. It's going to cause sclerosis. Those who recommend it for health are in error, or they just profited on the sale of it. And I tell you right now, that's what majority of it is all about. Profit on the sale of it. And the second one is because of error. Because remember, a lot of these doctors have been programmed to teach the misinformation, and they don't understand the physiological organism that you are. So if they're not understanding the physiological organism that you are, which is trillions of cells, and what are cells? Molecules, atoms, and electrons. Molecules do not eat and drink. Electrons do not eat and drink. Atoms do not eat and drink. Thus, the cell does not eat and drink. Why are you eating and drinking? Because of ignorance and because of the program you were given at birth. All right? So we understand that the sale of it is the reason why. The profit on the sale of it. Sometimes patients claim they get relief by drinking such water. They do it first, largely because they drink much of it, and that aids in cleansing the glands and tissues. Okay? The second effect that is lasting and is damaging. It is the second effect that is lasting and damaging. So you may get some kind of a relief from drinking mineral water at first, but know of a certainty, as your body continues to build up the mineral content, it's going to have a lasting and damaging effect on your organism. If the use of such water is continued, serious effects will appear from mineral deposits in the body. And since you're scared of distilled water, and since you don't drink distilled water, even for the purpose of detoxing, most people don't even detox. Most people have lived their whole life and have never fasted to detox their body. Imagine the filth that has built up in their organism. So after all that, the remedy backfires and in the end does much more harm than good to the human organism. Now, how about your spring water? Spring water, any water from the ground, contains in solution an amount of earthly ingredients that is fearful to contemplate. Folks, remember the video we watched earlier, and the guy had in a jar what the water build up, the mineral build up of the lime through filtration, getting it from the tap water. Yes, a lot of people are taking showers and cooking with their tap water. And Dr. Nikola said you shouldn't even cook with tap water because it'll remove the minerals. Well, I tell you what, cook with mineral water and it will keep you from continuing on polluting your body with mineral deposits that's going to eventually settle in your joints and soft tissues and create you and turn you into a rock. It has been calculated that water of the average quality from the ground contains so much carbonates, the VOCs, and other compounds of lime that one using the average quantity in the form of tea, coffee, soup, etc. would in 40 years be sufficient to form a pillar of solid chalk or marble the size of a large man. Listen to what it just said, people. Listen to what it just said. It has been calculated. Dr. Marcala did not calculate it. He says he's done his own calculations, and you ought to drink more of this water that's going to turn you into a solid pillar of chalk or marble the size of a large man. But it says, it has been calculated that water of the average quality from the ground contains so much carbonates and other compounds of lime that one using the average quantity in the form of tea, coffee, soup, etc. in 40 years would be sufficient to form a pillar of solid chalk or marble the size of a large man. So, great is the amount of lime in spring and well water. And Dr. McCullough, your well water, man, I feel for you, buddy. That the quantity consumed daily would alone be sufficient to clog the system and bring on decrepitude and death. Didn't Dr. McCullough say that's what distilled water does? Because of the lack of minerals? Are y'all starting to see the truth? It is the minerals in the water, the lime deposits, the carbons, VOCs, that is causing your solidification and clogging the system and bringing on decrepitude and death before one reached the age of 20, but for the heroic labor of the eliminative organs. If it was not for our eliminative organs, people, death and decrepitude will come a lot quicker. But our body fights daily to eliminate threats. And so much of the threats are actually neutralized in the form of mucus, acids, and fat, if it has not been deposited into the joints, the soft tissues, the organs, the brain. That's right. Were it not for the eliminative function of the skin and urinary system, by which is eliminated much of the earthy matter entering the body with food and drink, no one who eats and drinks in conventional way would live 10 years. Well, again, even this guy who wrote this book, Man's Higher Consciousness, he makes a mistake to say that the urinary system is an eliminative function. Why I say it's not an eliminative function. What does the body do before it sends excess fluid to the bladder? It runs it through your liver and your kidneys. Man cannot duplicate a filter of such degree. So therefore, your urine is distilled water. Your urine is sterile. Your urine can be drunk if you had no water available to drink. So again, I'm not discounting, but again, we got to rightly divide, people. And the more information you know about the human organism, the better you can catch misinformation. And I'm not saying that he was trying to misinform, but wisdom is the principal thing. But in all thy getting of wisdom, get understanding. And if you understand that the liver and kidneys are filtering systems of toxins, then you got to understand that when you urinate, there is no toxins in the urine. Now, the reason why it smells strong and tastes salty is because, remember, your body produces mineral salts. Your body produces mineral salts. And based on your diet is going to determine how your urine smell and taste. Okay? But even if it smells bad and tastes bad, it is still not an ounce of poison in it, because everything in your urine is alive and can be recycled back into the body, and you will not have any ill effects. So that's one thing. Undistilled water. Undistilled. What is undistilled water, folks? Oh, spring, mineral, purified, any water that has not been distilled. So undistilled water taken internally is very bad. Boiling the water removed only a portion of the water and leaves the earthy matter behind. Remember the test that the guy did in the video where he boiled a cup of water, distilled water, and a cup of tap water? And he even boiled the amount of water that we're supposed to drink a day, and it left all of that film behind in the saucer pan. Well, this is where we get that from. So I ask you, test your water. Put your water that you deem worthy for the body to the test, and boil the amount of water that you will consume in a day, and see how much material is left behind. And when what you see in the pot that's left behind, times that by a lifetime of you drinking and getting the amount of water that you think you drink a day, that you need a day. Okay? In the 100th part of a drop of raw water, the microscope reveals a world of tiny animals. The dead bodies of the animals remain in the water after it is boiled and help to clog the depurating organs and eliminating channels. Again, the dead bodies of the animals remain in the water after it is boiled, and this helps to clog the depurating organs and eliminating channels. And all of this just 100th part of a drop of water, raw water. By drinking boiled water, one may avoid taking the live animals into the body, but one buries their dead remains in the body. If raw water is an aquarium, boiled water is a cemetery. If raw water is an aquarium, boiled water is a cemetery. After boiling in a clean tea kettle for a week, the water from a well, spring, creek, or lake, a stony coating will be found on the inside wall of the kettle. Did we not see that in the video of the test that the guy done on the water? Yes, we did. We saw that stone coating that formed on the pot. Again, your life is valuable. Take this serious. If you don't think distilled water is the water for you, do a test on the water that you think is right for you. The whole reason for me doing this video is to give you understanding that we are ignorantly drinking water that is creating disease in our body. Dis-ease. Dis-ease. And if you want to get rid of the dis-ease, you have to drink the distilled water, because it's going to act as a solvent and remove those minerals from the body to keep you pliant and flexible and moist of the soft tissues. All right. Lime deposits cause stiff joints. Did y'all hear? Lime deposits cause stiff joints. Lime deposits, not your food. If you're eating a lot of earthy vegetables, that may have some contribution to it, but it's the water that contains the deposits in it that doctors seem to think is good for you. I don't know if they realize that they're actually, they have to know. They have to know this information. For them to not use the water they tell you to put in your machine but they use it in their machines. That right there is very revealing that they know. So if it clogs up their machines, then you best believe it's clogging up your machine. But lime deposits cause stiff joints. What occurs in the body when one drinks such water for 40 years? If the body were as helpless as the kettle to protect itself against the accumulation of these deposits, the body would be a solid pillar of limestone in a few years. Liquid lime is always present in the blood. And that's what I'm experiencing right now from all of the well water and spring water that I have drunk over the years, because I didn't know. And now I'm experiencing this liquid lime. Because when I've been down and then for about 30 seconds and I get back up, there's a stiffness in my joints and my knees. And that is the liquid lime that is referring to. And now it's gotten better. All right, because I've only been drinking distilled water for about a year and a half now. But it's gotten better. All right, but I got a lifetime of water drinking to reverse, folks. I mean, I've been drinking bad water for a while. And my age is 46. So imagine how much water I have to begin to drink in order to begin to reverse the effects of the damage I've caused to my own body. When a structure or gland decomposes in the presence of liquid lime, the liquid lime begins to fill the space resulting from the decomposition, and there it solidifies. So when you drinking this water that erodes away your arterial walls, that's the arterial walls begin to get pits in it from the dirt and the earthy materials in it, and therefore what replaces the tissue? It is the lime. The lime begins to solidify the pits in the soft tissue. The soft tissue is supposed to have a moist film over it. But once that film erodes away and the tissue begins to get pits in it, what is going to replace that soft film over the organ? It's going to be that lime you drinking. Many fossils remains of ancient animals and vegetables are limestone casts, thus filled in as the original entity decayed. So fossils of ancient animals and vessels are nothing more than limestone canes of the original entity that decayed. Bunions and enlarged joints rise chiefly from this cause. When a joint is held open, as where an ill-fitting shoe holds the toe pressed over towards the other toes, the liquid lime fills in the space thus caused, and the joint becomes enlarged or achy. If any joint is held in one position long enough without movement, it will grow stiff because of liquid lime deposited around the joint. The only remedy is movement of the joint and the use of distilled water or the juice of oranges or grapefruit to dissolve the lime so that it may be washed out and eliminated. Folks, I know I read earlier where he has said distilled water was bad for you. Yeah, distilled water that has no sun, that is not having air to it. But distilled water is basically nature's water when it's not being enclosed in a cistern or a well. Distilled water is nature's water. But remember, he said that the best water to get is the distilled water from your fruits and vegetables. Basically juicing, folks. Juices of oranges or grapefruits. And what do those do? They dissolve the lime. So even your juices, fresh squeezed juices from the vegetables and fruits that you juice will have the same effect as distilled water in nature. Because the water contained in your fruits and vegetables is distilled. It is distilled because remember, all we are, folks, all the fruit is a condensation of the gases in atmosphere. Solidified. The same way you came into being. The same way the orange came into being, we all came into being. And they contain the very thing that we came into being by. It's the fluid, the gases in fluid form, what we call juice. Rainwater and distilled water are safe. Rainwater and distilled water are safe. Man's higher consciousness is knowing that rainwater and distilled water and fruit juices are safe to dissolve lime and wash out, to be eliminated. So they have the effect of washing out the body and then the body taking them and eliminating them through the excretory organs. Okay? So rainwater has been distilled by the sun. It is free of all minerals. But when it falls as rain, it may pass through air filled with tiny animals, dust, smoke, soot, acids, and all kinds of filth. In other words, rainwater passes through the VOCs, the carbon compounds. All right, and that's why I said wait to drink the rain. Wait to catch the rain. Let the rain filter out the air first, remove all the filth, and then catch that rain. And when it's clear, that means it's good to drink. If it's yellow, if it has a straw color, it's not good. As it reaches the earth, in such cases, it is so saturated with the filth of civilization that its color is very light straw. As the rain continues to fall, the air soon becomes washed of the filth and the water grows clear and clean. That is the water one should use. Distilled water is water that has been transformed to vapor and then condensed. We already learned that, right? It is free of minerals and the only water except rainwater fit to use. This is man's higher consciousness. Such water may be boiled in the same kettle for years and will leave no deposits on the kettle's walls, like the tap water will do, like your spring water will do, like your well water will do, your mineral water, your hard waters. Distilled water is the greatest solvent known. The Creator does not make mistakes. It is the only water, except clean rainwater, that may be taken into the body without damage to the cells and tissues. I repeat, it is the only water, except clean rainwater, that may be taken into the body without damage to the cells and tissues. Now, Dr. Nikola said because it lacks minerals and because it's acidic. Dr. Nikola didn't let you know, though, that your body is a natural alkaline, has its own natural alkalining process. So you need not be scared of acidic distilled water. Matter of fact, he recommends that you drink, not Dr. Nikola, but Dr. Hilton Hotima recommends that one drinks oranges and grapefruits and the juices of fruits and vegetables because they have the same effect. So what Dr. Nikola has just said was that even fresh squeezed juices and fresh squeezed vegetable juices would be harmful for the body because they are distilled, folks. Think. Let us reason together. Come on. Are you seeing the truth? So, distilled water is the greatest water known. And it's the only water, except clean rainwater, that may be taken into the body without damaging cells and tissues. By its continued use, it is possible. It is possible, folks, to dissolve mineral deposits, acid crystals, and other hardening deposits such as flour, cereals, grains that we have eaten over the years, bread that is in the body. Okay? Captain Diamond, mentioned in the lesson number 16, got relief from his stiffened state by the use of fresh fruit juices and distilled water. As these are not medicines, they are not usually used. As distilled water is such a powerful solvent, it is bad for the teeth because it leaches out their minerals. The same is true, to a lesser extent, of acid juices such as those of oranges and grapefruit. Well, let me tell you something. You can drink nature's waters, and the point is, it's very little damage, if any. You're going to do more damage trying to get your so-called minerals that doctors have said you need through food and water than you will drinking distilled water or the distilled waters of fruits and vegetables. So, give and take, folks. Give and take. Which one is the greater or the lesser of the two evils? I say distilled water is the lesser of drinking the mineral and spring waters or the hard waters. All right, but again, you have to make that choice. What's going to be best for you? Distilled water passes directly into the blood, and the solvent properties of the blood are increased by the distilled water to a degree that the blood will keep in solution the mineral salts already in it and prevent their harmful deposition in organs and glands and favor their elimination by the different excreta. If distilled water be taken in large quantities, or if it be the only liquid one takes into the body, it will in time tend to dissolve and remove those earthy compounds that have accumulated in the system, the effects of which usually become more manifest at the ages of 40 and 50. And as I said, I am 46 years old. So I used to run a lot, but ignorantly drinking the well water when I lived in the country and the spring water, my joints began to stiffen up and I began to ache so terrible I had to stop running. But now my joints are starting to free up again and I'm able to get back out and run a little bit more. All right. The daily use of distilled water facilitates the removal of deleterious compounds from the body by means of the excreta, and therefore tends to prolong life. Folks, it is only through the process of elimination that is extending our life to reach 80, 70, 90, 100, and if you're lucky, 115, 120. But that's the only reason. If you did not eliminate the pollutants that you are taking into your body from the water, from the air, the pollutants from the water and the pollutants from the food, you would not live to see these ages. No water is so good for the body as the distilled water contained in coconuts, melons, berries, and fruit. I repeat, no water is so good for the body as the distilled water contained in coconuts, melons, berries, and fruits. From this source, one should obtain all the fluid the body needs, and plain distilled water should not be used unless one believes it is necessary to dissolve tumors and hardening deposits in the body. So what he's saying is we should only be drinking fresh juice or eating fruit. Hence, that's why fruitarianism is a higher state of consciousness than vegetarianism, because vegetables are going to contain more of the earthy mineral. Not a lot, but if you're eating a lot of vegetables, you are getting a lot of the earthy minerals that is harmful to the body. So, distilled water should not be used unless one believes it is necessary to dissolve tumors and hardening deposits in the body. But guess what, folks? He didn't say drink. He didn't say drink spring water, well water, mineral waters. He said no water is so good for the body as the distilled water contained in coconuts, melons, berries, and fruits. And from this source, one should obtain all the fluid the body needs. All right? So people living in limestone localities who use water from wells, springs, creeks, lakes are invariably afflicted at a comparatively early age with a general ossification of the whole body. And folks, I'm experiencing this ossification in my body. Again, my body is recovering, but I have experienced this and didn't know why. Instances of longevity among such are rare. Good thing I caught it. Good thing I caught it, because I was drinking all that well water and spring water, thinking that I was in a gold mine with my water, bragging about how I ain't drinking filthy, polluted city water, not knowing that I was creating my own health ailment through ignorance. Remember, they say ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is only bliss to those people who are not presented with the truth. See, if I don't disturb your consciousness with the truth, then your ignorance is bliss. And as we eat to live, we also eat to die. And so we also drink to live, but we also drink to die. And I'm here to present to you today man's higher consciousness. That the human organism, being made of cells, is electrons do not eat, atoms do not eat, and cells do not eat. Why should man eat? Why should man eat? Man eats to die. The world is flooded with books on food and feeding, and no one seems to realize that eating is not natural, but an acquired habit, like smoking and drinking, and that air is the cosmic reservoir of all things, including the substance that builds and sustains the human body. Why? Why is this? Because the body, from the parent cell on, is built by techniques and directed by intelligence entirely foreign to the best scientific minds. From the parent cell, composed of invisible atoms, and out of the invisible essence of the universe and the infinite air which contains all in itself, the body and its organs come into being by the work of cells endowed with infinite intelligence. The cells prove by their work that they possess a prevision of the future structure and its purpose, and they synthesize from the atomic substance that appears to be contained in the plasma of the cell not only the building material, but also the builders. And electrons do not eat. Atoms do not eat. Molecules do not eat. Cells do not eat. And the body is built of and sustained by the cells, and not what man eats or drinks. Man breathe, for therein you will find the key to life.